All right. Um, so I'm not sure if people have watched the first session, but last week I kicked off a new campaign. Um, Basically, the king of the human realm ordered a bunch of people to go sack an elf port, make war on the elves, go attack the ancient elven nation of Nilethir, and take their ports. Basically, the elves were these haughty, arrogant, xenophobic kind of elf supremacists, I guess you could say, that built their own empire and focused on just growing their own culture and pushing out everybody who didn't didn't like it, who wasn't like them. And the human empire thought they were haughty, arrogant, and foolish, not looking out for what was happening, and they launched this attack. So the campaign started, and we all my players rolled up characters, and the first character was Franco, the Goblin swashbuckler. So we had been playing Pathfinder for over a decade now, and goblins weren't traditionally a playable race in Pathfinder or D&D 3.5. I mean, people made it happen, but it wasn't a stock thing. So basically, having seen that goblin was a playable race out of the box, he was super excited and jumped in on it. And he made his character, and he wrote up a little backstory, and everybody was so in love with it, so it was hilarious that they all kind of one by one fell into like, oh, I'll make a goblin too. So first it was Franco, the swashbuckler, and then my friend made Gerhardt, aka G Payne, the bard, and it just snowballed out from there. So once we had those two, and then Chris heard that, and he's like, okay, I'll make Puck the Oracle. And after that, it was basically like, well, if there's already 3 goblins in the party, we should have lots. We should have it all goblins. So it kind of. So Franco the Swashbuckler, Gerhardt the Bard, Maester Bard, Puck the Cosmos Oracle, Squirrel is a Ranger, Crossbow Ace Ranger. Karen, I think the D might be silent, is a champion. Hemo is a sorcerer. Fumbar is an alchemist. I think Jeff just took the default, the iconic alchemist, and tweaked it a little bit, made Fumbar. I think it's Fumbis or something like that is the, yeah, so maybe we change that name up a little bit. And then Even is a barbarian, an animal totem barbarian, or whatever it's called. Yeah, animal instinct, the shark instinct. So he just bites. He rages and bites people's arms off and stuff like that. So that's kind of the party. And like I posted in a bunch of spaces, it's kind of like the idea is it's going to be a Westmarches kind of game, where or jam style or pickup game, whatever you want to call it, where we play every other week, and whoever can make it can make it. And we figure out who shows up, what they want to do, and where they want to go, and what kind of adventure it's going to take. So, maybe one week we have 3 people, maybe one week we have 5. I'm trying to limit it to 5 people at this point, because I don't think I'm kind of new as a 2E GM. And I know in first edition, running for more than 5 people was a nightmare. Just getting through combats and stuff like that. I couldn't imagine doing it. From my limited experience in Pathfinder 2 so far, it seems like things go a bit faster. People are much quicker with what they're going to do. The action economy changes how people think about how they're going to fight, and I feel like maybe I could do more players, but for right now I'm going to keep it at 5. So yeah, anyway, Westmarches style game. 5 people can come. And we just go with whoever we got. Last time we had 4, and I think Mike joined in the middle with Even, so we did have 5. And the idea is that eventually, there's going to be some railroading in the beginning, admittedly, but once we get kind of out into the world, I want to do kind of truly Westmarches. Let them pick what they want to do, figure out what they're going to go look for, what kind of rumors they want to go investigate, and have it that way, have it kind of player-driven, work with them to kind of decide what they're going to do before we start the session. So that's pretty much it. It's also going to be kind of like the Odyssey, a little rip-off of the Odyssey. Right now, like I said, they're assaulting a port, and the end goal is that eventually they will be at sea, adrift, and going from island to island, kind of island hopping in a campaign like that, where a boat is their home base instead of being like a Westmarches campaign where they have a tavern they're all hanging out in and they go out to the wilderness. It's going to be centered on a boat, and they're going to decide what rumor do you want to investigate, what vague direction is it in, and then what happens when you go sail towards it. Maybe it's there, maybe it's not, maybe it was a rumor and didn't exist at all. We'll figure it out. So what I have so far is I want to kind of explain the Odyssey. I didn't want to just throw them into the Odyssey. I wanted them to have an experience that explains what's happening to them and why. So what I came up with was what I explained before. They're basically attacking this elven port. So they were sent here by their king, and they have a general NPC named Apilius. Over here, Apilius. I have some, whatever, I have journal entries, right? Recurring NPCs, I have a picture of Apilius there. So yeah, so it's again, it's very, we're throwing to the the Greek Odyssey on purpose. The name is vague. The name is vaguely Greek or Roman, and you know the O for like again. There's definitely lines being drawn there on purpose to see if people pick up on them. But in any event, they raided the port, and Opilius was talking to the goblins on the boat. They kind of bumbled through some social encounters, things like that. And Opilius was kind of looking for a leader among the goblins, and he didn't really find one. He talked to a bunch of people, and they all kind of fumbled their roles and fumbled their role playing, and awkwardly just pointed at each other and said, that guy looks pretty tough. Eventually, Franco, the the swashbuckler with all the panache and the performance, he kind of said, well, if you need somebody to pretend to be a chief, you need somebody to play a role, I can do that for you. And he stepped up. And so they went through, and the Apilius kind of, his plan was just drive straight to the dock, get their dock, because the elves, again, they don't believe that humans are even capable of building boats like this or piloting boats like this. So he said, we're just going to drive up like we're an elf ship, we're going to dock, they're going to let us in, and we're going to attack. And that's what happened. It worked out for them, and the goblins were the first wave. None of them really picked up on if they were being sent out as like fodder to kind of test the waters, or if they were maybe like some elite squad. They didn't really figure out which way it was. So whatever it was, they were first, and Opilius kind of hung back. Him and some of his other troops stayed on the boat and shot some arrows here or there. But in general, the goblins were in charge. So we had a quick fight here, and again, this was on my Twitch. This session was recorded. It's on my Twitch and the YouTube. Same name, Jay Mosky. You know, they fought a bunch of dockhands who were drunk and not very well organized, and they got the drop on them. So the first couple fights were really one-sided in favor of the goblins. They killed a bunch of dockhands. I made a couple of them weak just to make it like kind of ease into it. Also, I'm new to Pathfinder 2E, so I didn't want to overwhelm the PC. So I started with like a trivial encounter, and then I think I threw another trivial and then a moderate or whatever the next level up from that is. So I kind of eased them into it, and I wanted to get a feel for how things scaled, what trivial really meant in terms of like rolling out a fight with trivial, what moderate really meant, and also kind of getting a gauge for how the players interacted, what kind of abilities they would be using, and what they'd be doing in subsequent encounters. I also, again, I'm new, my players are also pretty new. Some of them have been playing 1E for a long time now, but we're all new to 2E. So I also wanted to get a feel for if I wanted them to understand how combat worked. I did some practice sessions before this where we kind of had like an arena type thing where they would just fight against some goblins in a pit, or they would fight against kobolds or whatever it is. Just to work through the mechanics of how Foundry works and how second edition works, and things went pretty well. And yeah, so basically they got off the boat and they hit the ground running, and they were off to the races. So the people that came last week were Squirrel, the Ranger, Gerhardt, the Bard, Franco, the Swashbuckler, Even, the Barbarian, and Puck, the Oracle. And that went pretty well. I was surprised. Trivial does mean trivial. I learned pretty well there that trivial was a very easy encounter for them. They barely got scratched. And then even in the moderate one, I think they only got a little bit hurt. Again, that was something I was worried about because they don't have a cleric. In my mind, I always I fill the spots when I'm a player. So the fact that they don't really have a cleric and they have an oracle who can heal, but you probably once or twice. And they have, I guess, the Bard. Gerhardt also has Soothe, right? Yeah, so maybe once or twice a day you could Soothe if you needed to. So in my mind, Pathfinder 1 was, you need to have like a bag full of wands. And you need to have a cleric there. And I saw in Pathfinder 2, I played a little bit of a cleric in a different game, where they have the healing font or whatever it's called, where basically they get a bunch of free heals a day. So I was worried that not having that would be bad, but it seemed to work out pretty well. They didn't take a whole lot of damage. We forgot about the medicine skill. I think they're actually not that good at it. I was trying to teach them about treat wounds, and I think Puck is the best at treat wounds with only a +2, so that's still a decent chance of failing it. Maybe not hurting them, but failing at not healing. So we'll see. I don't think anybody else has a higher than a +2. They're goblins, so they have a penalty to wisdom, and I don't think many people invested in making it better. So we'll see as that goes on. But after those early fights, I also threw a Harbor Master at them. It was a weak Harbor Master. So Foundry's pretty cool in that if you go to the Edit NPC, you can set them to, like, you know, weak or elite, which kind of changes. So, like, this is a level 3 NPC, but making it weak only, you know, turned it to a level 2, and it changed its stats a little bit. It makes, you know, it takes a -2 to most of its attacks and DCs and stuff like that. So I was kind of able to balance the encounters a little bit based on what I thought would be important and kind of flavor things up without statting up all my own NPCs. I found, you know, oh, okay, I use these, the dock hands. A lot of these are weak dock hands, and then I made the foreman a regular dock hand. So the regular dock hands are level 0, the weak ones are -1. So, you know, the first encounter was just 2 or 3 regular or weak dock hands, and then I had a regular one and a foreman, and then I stepped up to a regular one and a weak Harbor Master, trying to get a feel for what was going on. And yeah, it went well. Combat went very smoothly, very quickly, so I'm kind of interested to see how that goes. They absolutely slaughtered things. The Swashbuckler especially, I was surprised. I guess he's a braggart, so what he does is he intimidates people and then gets panache. And then when he has panache, he gets his precise strike is like an extra 1d8 damage or something. Or was it 2d6 damage? Let me see. Does it on the sheet? So like if he attacks, it looks like this. That's an attack. That's damage. And he has panache, and there's like the finisher, right? No. Does this work? Yeah, if you hit the finisher button, it shows him the damage. Yeah. So he does 1d6 with his sword, and plus 2d6 with a finisher. So I guess maybe it's an effect of the fact that we're first level and some of the enemies were weak, but when he was doing his hit and his finisher, he was knocking things out left and right. And a couple times I think he crit. Again, that's just luck, or because we're first level and some of the things were weak. I think he crit 2 or 3 times. And when he crits with a finisher, it's just, he obliterates the thing. But yeah, it went well, and I think I learned a bit about, you know, balancing encounters. I still have a lot to learn, obviously, especially because there's a lot to happen between first level and wherever we're going. But yeah. So that was the first fight. There's also this bottom half of the dock that mattered only a little bit, because some dock hands came out of this room. They investigated this room, but there wasn't much in there other than the machinery you see there. And this is where the Harbor Master was kind of staying with 2 dock hands. They were playing cards and gambling, and there's this big water wheel thing, kind of with a little waterfall up here. So I kind of ruled they had a really big penalty on their perception checks, and they didn't even notice while everybody else was getting slaughtered out here. They didn't hear the shouts over the waterfall. So the party killed everybody else and then started looting the place, not even realizing, oh hey, there's more to explore. And eventually a drunken dockhand stumbled out of the poker game and came upon the party, and that triggered the last encounter. So that went well, and they've secured the dock, and the primary objective for this mission is to take this dock and the nearby town of Thaeth, which is a small elven town, or I guess it's a village. It's like 200 people. It's a small, like, agrarian community, basically, that grows food and creates minor supplies for this small port, which is the like the last port of call on the Elven main continent. So if they're sending ships and supplies further south to, like, you know, the distant south, the exotic areas of the world, they stop here to resupply on food, get supplies, and things like that. So the surrounding areas mostly, you know, grains, growing stuff like that, and there's wineries and stuff like that. They have lots of alcohols at this station. So they've secured this, and they're going to take the nearby town. So I've started prepping a bunch of that already. You can see if I go to my scenes, I guess I kind of block some of it with the chat box I put up there. But I've got scenes for this coastal raid, a forest canopy, stuff like that. I guess you can also see them up here. So we can look at some of those. While they were looting Squirrel, the ranger, he climbed a tree. He wanted to look around. And he specifically asked if he saw a watchtower. So I had him roll a perception check. And of course, there was a watchtower. He did see it. So I think on the way, they're basically going to have the option of attacking the watchtower or trying to avoid it. and I'm not sure if I'm going to guide them in any direction. I don't know if I'm going to like have Apilius order them to engage the Watchtower because they want to take out any guards that might be there, or if stealth is fine enough and it'll be okay. In any event, though, the Watchtower, this is a map by Gabriel Picard, excellent map maker, cartographer, and it's pretty simple. I have 2 town guards that I have, and I think to do this, I think I just took, are these? I think this is just like a regular guard that I kind of elfed up a little bit by tweaking the stats. But yeah, so they have a longbow, they have a club, and a sap. Like they're basically the guards in town, the police in town. They're not soldiers. They don't even have swords or anything like that. They don't have like, they're elves. They have the bows and the clubs. So I have 2 of them up here in this tower, and they're not really on guard because if I go back to the coastal raid real quick, you can see over here I added this little bell on the map, and I was going to have it that one of the dockhands would run up and hit this bell, and that would be this big bong, bong, that would alert more people in the Elven community. But Gerhardt the Bard, in a stroke of brilliance, illusioned up a bunch of boxes in front of it, and the dockhand failed his save. So even though he was sure the boxes weren't real, he was running his hands through them and stuff like that, he couldn't really see. He still, he failed his check. They're still like opaque boxes. So he tried to move through them and figure out where the bell was and couldn't get it. And before he could do anything about it, the rest of the other goblins murdered him. So the alarm was never raised. So this watchtower is going to be kind of not idle, but they're not going to be on alert. So yeah, it's a pretty simple fight. You got the town guards. They have a decent hit. They're rolling +7s or +9s. They're better at being bruisers than with their longbow. Might want to change that. Maybe swap their stats to strengthen their decks. But again, I'm not looking to murder the players though, so I just kind of want them to be a little wary of approaching. So I'm gonna have the players come in from this side, and have the town guards up here make perception checks with a penalty, and see if the goblins want to sneak up, if they want to try to do something clever, or if they just want to rush the tower and hope they don't get murdered by the longbows like that. So yeah, 7's a decent to hit, and just 1d8, no bonuses, no pluses, minuses on the damage, so not the end of the world, and hopefully they do alright. I also have hidden in the bushes down here this elf hunter, which is I think I took a drow, whatever, I think a drow fighter or a drow something, I forget what I took from the compendium, and I kind of just removed the drow powers from it, and I gave him a short bow instead of a crossbow, I believe. So again, I'm just kind of using the compendium that they have in the 2E edition for Foundry, and you can turn on, in the bestiary I turned on all the NPC options and stuff like that. It takes a second to load, but when it comes up, you can search for drow. And I think I just grabbed this drow fighter, and again I just undrowed it. I took away all the spells it has, and it's kind of it's kind of the same. It's kind of like they're basic. They're elves plus. So I tweaked it a little bit, and now I have these town guards that I'm going to use in a couple different places. And I have the elf hunter. So this is actually a weak token. You can see it has weak there. So I want to use that drow kind of archetype in another place. I want to have them be like guerrilla fighters later after the players conquer the city or the town. So I'm using a weak hunter here to kind of introduce them to the fact like there are rangery woodland kind of elves that can fight with these real weapons. Like they have a sword and a little dagger. Basically they fight kind of two-handed, and they have a short bow too. So my idea is that this guy's going to be kind of hiding in the bushes, and when he hears the shouting of the guards, or maybe he's hunting nearby, and when he hears the shouting of the guards, he'll come up and investigate, and then provide a little extra incentive for the PCs to have to fight. So yeah, so the Watchtower, there are these 2 guards are level 1, so those are like, the 2 of them together are moderate, and adding a weak guerrilla is the guerrilla is a level -1, level 0 there, so it's still a moderate. And I think again the party's working very well together. But again, since it's Westmarches, who knows who's going to show up to the next one? But so far they've been acting well together. So I don't think this will be too difficult. I want to have the elf hunter come in as kind of a surprise and maybe you know, they're overconfident and they're moving in, and he shows up on the side and starts wailing on them with his swords and stuff. And they have, he has like a cool, first off, his attack of opportunity, which is not a lot of things have, so that's kind of cool. And also he has the skewer ability here. He attacks with a sword and gains a +1 circumstance to the attack roll. The creature damage takes persistent damage. -4 because he's weak, which is kind of painful. I might tweak that to just be 1d6 -2. But yeah, he's pretty cool. He's got some cool abilities. And yeah, so again, they have the option to approach the guard tower or to just try to avoid it entirely. In the event they avoid it entirely, I'm going to throw like another encounter at them. I think I'm going to use this this forest clearing map, also Gabriel Picard. And I'm going to have them approach kind of from the southwest over here at the bottom right. And I was thinking that I have them and they're invisible right now, but there's a elf hunter, which is what the same thing I showed you before. It's like the weak drow ripoff. And I have these guard dogs, which are, I think they're hunting dogs, or I forget what I made them. But yeah, again, they were in the bestiary, and I just took them. And there's 3 of them and a hunter. So this is, again, I think another moderate encounter. So when the party comes up, I'm going to have these guys approaching to about there. You can see I put a little mark on the map, an invisible mark for me, to kind of show, hey, this is where I want the hunter to end up. So they're going to be heading there, and the party will be heading in from here, and we'll have perception versus stealth to see who notices who. But at the end of the day, I think the party's going to be sneaking up here, and depending on how stealthy they are, the dogs will or will not notice them. And we'll see what happens. The hunter has a couple things going for him. The first is that there is a second hunter over here. Oh, it's labeled Elf Guerrilla. I want to change it to be Elf Hunter too. So I got to open the token and go Elf Hunter 2. Yep, important to not give away the fact that they're gorillas later. And yeah, so Elf Hunter 2 there is going to be backup. He's like nearby and can hear the shouting or the dogs barking if something goes wrong. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that there's a trap here that I've set up. And I was looking through, I didn't find any like basic snare traps. I don't know if they do exist and I just didn't notice them or anything like that. But I didn't see like a basic, like, oh, there's a snare, you get stuck in it. So I did look around and I figured out that they had this hampering web trap that I was looking at. And it's a little different. It's basically webs in front of a doorway. But I basically just ripped off the stats and are going to kind of go with that. So, you know, it's hidden. I'm kind of playing it like there's a net in the trees, like between the trees and this rock here. That's basically going to, like, let's say there's some kind of a trigger down there, some kind of a tripwire or something like that, that if you don't see it, this thing will spring out of the tree here and snag somebody. They get a reflex save or be immobilized. Basically, these things are wrap around them and it has weights on it. And just say, like, it's supposed to catch, you know, large game. It could catch a deer, bear, whatever. So, you know, obviously a goblin getting stuck inside there is going to be pretty immobilized. So between all that, I think what's going to happen is the hunter and the dogs are going to move to here. They're going to get spotted, or they're going to spot either way. Someone's going to spot somebody. A fight's going to break out, and the hunter's going to run like this into here, try to get behind the cover here. And then I'm hoping basically a goblin will run, you know, up this way through the trap. That's the general idea of this encounter. I don't know if it's going to go that way. Players will surprise you, obviously. But that's what I was thinking for this one. And again, this is Gabriel Picard, and I think the trap is also from him. And the tokens I use, I know they're kind of hard to see because I have them invisible for the purposes of not letting the player see things too early. But the tokens I use are Devon Knight. Mostly, I have a couple of different people, but most of my tokens are from Devon Knight, and I absolutely love his characters. So yeah, that's the forest clearing. So, like I said, from the coastal raid, they're going to head towards the town of Thaeth, and along the way, they're going to choose to engage the Watchtower or not. If they choose not to, I'm going to use the forest clearing fight. I might just use it anyway either. I figured this is like an either or, but depending on how fast things are going, engaging the level of, you know, how the speed of the party moving through fights, I might just throw this one at them too. But we'll see. Once they finish that, I want to give them this map called Homestead over here. And this is Printable RPG. I think that's also Spell Arena. I believe Spell Arena and Printable RPG are the same thing with different branding. So basically, they're going to come across a bunch of fields, grain fields, things like that. And they're going to come across a visible homestead. And they need to decide what they want to do. Like, obviously, they could just skip it and not go, or just by virtue of me mentioning it, maybe it'll be interesting enough to go see. So I have these farmers. They're level 0, so it's party level -1. And I made like a farm child, which is a weak version of it. So I think I stacked up. There's like 3 or 4. There's 4 farmers and a weak farmer, which is a pretty decent encounter. I don't have the math handy, but I was trying to. So it's what is it? Is it 4 at the level? No, they're at level -1. There's 4 at level -1, and there's 1 at level -2. Yeah, so I don't have the math handy on it, what this is, but I believe it ends up being moderate. And basically, when they show up, they're goblins, and these are elves, and they're basically going to assume that these are horrible, degenerate monsters, and they're going to try to shoo them away with, pitchforks, or what do they have? They do have pitchforks, yeah. They're going to shoot them away with pitchforks and torches and say, get the hell out of here, not knowing that they're an elite band of goblin commandos here to conquer the town. So the first one's probably going to get mauled by the party, and then maybe the other ones are a little more organized. But at the end of the day, they're farmers. They're not warriors. They're not designed to fight. They will do their best. So they're not bad with their pitchforks. Not great, but they're not bad with it. I'll roll one for you. So they got a +6 to hit. They got 1d6 plus 3 damage. That's a lot of damage. Like that can be anyway. And they have this cool pitch bale ability, which is, again, I'm new to Pathfinder, so this is one of the coolest things from a game master perspective, is that every NPC and every monster has like a unique ability. I absolutely love that. It's not just like, here's the monster, it attacks this hard, it has these feats, go to town. It's like, this is a farmer, they pitch bale, they pitch hay all day, so when they attack with a pitchfork, they can push people with it. And the dock hands I had, they had whiskey on them, and it's like they could use 2 actions to swig an entire bottle of whiskey, and then become clumsy, which means their dex stuff is all wrong, -1 to all their dex stuff, and they get +2 in melee damage. So they're brawling with their fists, swigging a bottle of whiskey and hitting harder with their fists. And they could do things like they throw boxes, they pick up a box and they hurl it, and it's like a small area effect, and it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but it's thematic and it's fun, and it gives me, the game master, something fun to do. And so, speaking of the farmers, they pitch bales, which basically, if they have hit successfully with their pitchfork, they can spend another action to just knock them away 5 feet and land prone, unless they make a reflex save. So, these goblins are coming on my farm, I'm just going to stab them with a pitchfork and try to shove them away, which is really cool. So again, I figured this first one down here is going to get mauled, and then once they get up here, there'll be a little more organization, a little more, urgency. And additionally, another cool thing they have is they throw apples, which, again, it's not very accurate, it's only a +5, but it's a surprising amount of damage. 1d4 plus 3, to me, like, the +3 on it is kind of insane. I guess they're farmers, they're, like, super strong. Not super strong, but, they're stronger than... +3, it's amazing to me. They're doing farm work all day, they're strong. So yeah, they are gonna be throwing apples. It's gonna hurt. So I have this, this seems like kind of a silly fight. I think my players are really going to enjoy fighting the farmers. Especially because, again, we play a lot of games where you're the hero, you're the good, honorable hero, and this is a bunch of goblins just stumbling onto a bunch of farmers who think they are monsters. And I think what's going to come out of that is something either hilarious or grotesquely violent, or maybe both. We'll see how that ends up. So yeah, the party is free to decide to, again, completely ignore this if they want, or investigate it and see what they want to do when they get here, if they choose that. So, I think, again, so there's 1 encounter, 2 encounter, and maybe 3 encounters if I want the forest clearing. I'll try to feel it out, see how the speed is going. But the main focus of the next session is going to be the town of Thaeth itself. So this is a map by Iconic Maps. I think I got it on DriveThruRPG. And I've relabeled it, and I'm kind of just repurposing it for my own usage. So this is the elf town of Thaeth, and I've started coming up with what the heck's going on in all these places, but I don't have all the answers just yet. But hopefully by next Saturday, when my next session is, I'll have some more. But the gimmick is basically, so Apilius and his troops, he's brought about, I think, 60 men with him, men and women with him, and the goblins are, you know, basically 8 of that so far. I think we have a couple more people that are interested in playing, so we might have more than that, but basically there's like, you know, a dozen goblins-ish. And whoever the party is next time, up to 5 of them, is going to be, you know, moving through this, you know, the forest, moving through the farmlands, and eventually appearing in town. And I'm going to have it kind of thematically, you know, there are going to be, you know, different groups from Apilius' armies. There's going to be some coming from down here. There's going to be some coming through the forest over here. Basically, they've spread out, and they're moving around the town, and the party, the goblins, are just one group doing this. So the goblins aren't going to be fighting every fight in here. They're not going to be fighting in every place in this spot. They're not going to be completely subduing the town of 200 people by themselves. I think I'm going to have them come in over here, because I really like this oak tree. This kind of, it's very elven to have a fancy tree in your town. And I've decided that basically it's going to have good berries on it. So I don't know, I called it an oak with good berries doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but basically I'll figure that out. The general idea is that it's a magic tree, sacred tree to the elves, and that if you eat a single berry, you feel good, you feel full for the whole day, and it can heal you. So it's a very magic, sacred spot. And to defend it, what do you defend good berry trees with? Of course, you have a druid. So again, I have it invisible to kind of... I keep everything invisible until I know I want to show the players. It's kind of like keeping a mini off the board, or whatever you want to call it. So I have this druid here, Guardian of the Oak, this elf druid. But again, Devon Knight. He actually made this token for a PC in one of my other campaigns that I was a player in. This used to be Thakin, the Tree Singer Druid in Pathfinder 1. And then we were running the Legacy of Fire campaign. So yeah, so basically he's the Guardian of the Oak, he's a druid, and he's just a basic druid. I think I found a human druid, or I forget what I found in the thing. I try to be lazy, and if I can find something in the NPC codex that is close enough to what I want, I'll kind of just skin it the way I want. But yeah, I mean, he has a bunch of druid spells. Bark Skin, Fleet Step, Magic Fang. So I was thinking, I gave him a wolf initially. You see there's a wolf over here. I was thinking maybe I'd change that into a Leshie or something, because again, I made this other fight. I put this druid down first, and then I made this forest clearing fight where I have all the guard dogs. And guard dogs and wolves, although wolves are much more powerful, they're the same sort of idea. Like, they bite, they trip. So I'll probably replace this with Leshie or something. Let's see what I can pull out of the bestiary here. If I go, I think Leshies make sense, right? So a wolf's a CR1. This druid, or see, I couldn't say it's level 1, and the druid is level 2. So I'm pretty sure. Do I have the? I don't have it. Let me look. One of the notes I have is it shows the encounter numbers and stuff like that. So I have like this GM notes helper because I'm an idiot and knew it Pathfinder 2 thing. I basically went to Archives of Nethys and cut out the ones that are interesting to me. So again, we have a 2 and a 1. So that's party level plus 1 is a 60, and a 1 is party level. That's 100, which is, it's in the severe category. If you're playing with 5, though, it's only in moderate. So assuming 5 show up, maybe I want to add even more. But I'm thinking if I replace this wolf, which is a 1, with a gourd Leshie, a hogweed Leshie, or a plum Leshie. I don't know. Could look at these. What's a leaf Leshie is what? A 0. So I could also make 2 leaf Leshies, which could be interesting. Let's see what the abilities are. They both have Verdant Burst. When they die, they explode, restoring hit points to plant creatures. Interesting. All right. So if you had a bunch of Leshies, that'd be kind of interesting. They both do the same thing. Yeah. Oh, 1d8. So that the gourd one does more. Okay, fair enough. Hit points are bigger. AC is about the same. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. What do they do? What do they attack? Fist, and they throw seeds. They throw seed pods. All right. Yeah, the Gourd Leshie is definitely more badass. But with the Leaf one, you could have multiple of them. And in my opinion, I don't know, again, I'm new to Pathfinder 2, but at least in my Pathfinder 1 experience, having more weaker enemies is better than having a smaller number of big ones. Because the party's really good at focusing down single targets, or shutting down or debuffing single targets. So I think I might go with a couple of Leaf Leshies. So I'm going to go ahead and just commit to that. I'm going to take this wolf, I'm going to delete it. Goodbye. I'm going to drag a Leaf Leshie here. And then going back to my my GM notes, if I have a 60 and the Leaf Leshies are zeros, so that's a level -1. So if I put 2 Leaf Leshies, that's going to go to 120, which is the bottom of Severe. So I could probably put 3 Leaf Leshies, which would be like the top end of Severe. I think that's what I'll do. So I'm going to take this Leaf Leshie, and I'm going to edit it a little bit. I can just change the token. I don't need to do that. So you double right click on it, you open the image. And I don't know if I have Leaf Leshie art, so I'm going to go to my art tokens. It's my Devon Knight folder. Leshie. What do I got? Okay. I mean, I guess I'll do it for now. And Leshies are very small, or what are they? They are... Where's size on the sheet? What? Oh, small. It's up at the top. Small. Alright. So when something's small, I usually take the token size and I bump it down to like 0.8. And I'll look at it, see if maybe I want to make them even smaller, because I want them to look small compared to the Druid, basically. So I'm going to go ahead and 6, or maybe I'll go to 5. That might be too small. Alright. So we'll go to 6. Alright, that's fine. And then I'm just going to copy and paste. So I'm going to have 3 Leaf Leshies and just test their attacks, make sure they work. Yep, they have long spears, interesting. They throw seed pods, plus a deafening blow. Cool. I really like how everything in the bestiary just works, the compendium bestiary here. Like, they put a lot of effort in. The people who are behind the Pathfinder 2 one, and also the Pathfinder 1 one that I've used before in my other campaign. It's astounding how much it helps you speed up your games, get things going, get things rolling, and just... Now I have Leaf Leshies. And I can learn relatively little about them. It's like, basically I don't have to memorize anything about them. I don't have to, like, put a leaflet in a notebook and be able to flip their stats and things like that if I was playing at a table. It's very easy to pull up their sheet when I'm playing. And if I'm just attacking and doing basic skills, I don't even have to pull up the sheet. I can just have this token HUD mod that exists, and I can say, what actions do they have? They can do this glide, they can change shape. So I can, click on that. If you click that, it goes to the players, or if you have private GM role, it goes to yourself. You can also check it out in the actual token itself. You can go ahead and see what the heck does glide do, and not actually send it to the chat. Whatever you're into. Glide through the air, moving 5 feet towards the ground, 25 feet forward. So it's not flying, but basically you can glide downwards. Yeah. As long as it's been one action. Oh, so it's not flying, like you can't go up, but I guess you can continue gliding for a long time. That's interesting. So I could maybe put them on the tree or on the roofs of those little buildings around the tree. That might be interesting. If the Leshies were in the tree hiding, and hiding hopefully stealthily, because they are leaf-like things. And then the Druid comes out and does his thing. And then the Leshies kind of like dive bomb from the sky. That might be cool. And change shape. They transform into a small tree. Oh, that's neat. So they don't even have to be hiding. They can just be part of the tree, or they can be small trees nearby. Yeah. So basically, I'm just going to assume that they're very well hidden. And they can fight a Guardian of the Oak and 3 Leaf Leshies. And they can only cast Speak with Plants. It's the only spell they have. Okay. Yeah, so that's pretty good. I think that's way more fun than just a Druid and a Wolf. This is a plant-based Druid. Animal Messenger Barkskin. So Magic Fang kind of isn't very good. I don't think Magic Fang will work on the Leshies. They're talking about spears and stuff. But that's fine. Maybe I'll swap out Magic Fang for a different spell. What's a good Druid spell? I want to use their Primal. Right? Primal level 1. Alright, so if I want to ditch Magic Fang, I'll go ahead and unprepare that. And Burning Hands, Charm. Heal? They don't have Heal. Heal might be useful. Pummeling Rubble. Spray of Heavy Rocks flies in front of you. Rubble deals 2d4 in the area. Does it say what the area is? This spell? 15-foot cone. Okay, so it's kind of like Burning Hands, but rocks. Shillelagh. That's cool. Do you have a... You have a club, yeah. I can make a Shillelagh club. But, hopefully you're casting spells and not... Yeah, hopefully you're casting spells and supporting your friends. I'd like something plant-ish. Summon plant or fungus. I don't think I want to figure out how to do summoning yet. Verdant Sprout. Sprouts me in plant. 10 minutes to plant is... Okay, it takes 10 minutes, so I'm not gonna go with that one. Tether? No. Vines? Yeah, that sounds cool. We'll just play up vines in the area or grass, maybe? I don't think there's anything else I wanna... What's Noxious Vapors do? No. That is fun, but no, not really on theme with what I'm doing. Yeah. Yep, I'm gonna go with Tether, and I'm gonna play it up as... Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. It took a while though. No. I dropped it in there, and it's supposed to... I don't know. Went somewhere. It is a level 1 primal spell, yeah? Usually when you do that, it shows up in the spot. Oh, let's look into that. Make a note. What if I do it like this? Huh? Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to create spell. No, that's not what I'm doing. Anyway, I'll figure it out. Make a note to add Tether to his spell list. But that's the idea. So, like I said before, I want to have the PCs come in from up here, and they're going to be engaged by 2 of those guards we just talked about. Gonna hide those guys again. They're gonna engage these guards, and then I want to draw their attention down to this area here. So I'm not sure how exactly I'm gonna do that. Maybe some of the other soldiers come out and are having trouble down there. Maybe I make it so that, you know, they shout that they're being engaged by these druids, the druid and the Elite Leshies or something like that. The plants are attacking them. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we figure out something like that. So, that's the fight down there, and then I think maybe you have time for one more, because again, if I'm counting the fights, you're doing the Watchtower maybe, and then you're doing the fight with the dogs maybe. Yeah, so this is I'm preparing a Pathfinder session for my my friends. I see that there's some chat going on. So Zotrek, this is you know, basically a Pathfinder RPG game 2E that I'm preparing for my friends this next week on Saturday. This is kind of just the Foundry virtual tabletop and how it all works, how you prepare a session for your friends and stuff like that. And it is a multiplayer game. I run a game for anywhere between 3 and 5 people every other week. And I'm running a couple different campaigns. But yeah, so the idea is that, you know, I play all the NPCs. Go ahead, these are like, you know, Town Guard 1 and 2. And they have attacks and stuff like that. So, you know, they use their longbow like that. You roll to see if you hit. A 9 probably won't hit. That's a very low hit. They roll a 2. But yeah, basically you roll for attack and damage. And, you know, you go back and forth and the players fight. So, I can show you some of the players here. I guess I'll go to the start screen. We have a crew of goblins, I was explaining earlier. Like Franco's a swashbuckler. He mocks people. He made a little like puppet out of a gauntlet. It's this leather gauntlet that he puts like googly eyes on basically, and he taunts people with it, and then he fights them, tumbling around and stabbing them with their sword. Squirrel is a goblin ranger with a crossbow, more comfortable with animals than people. Puck is an oracle and also a barber. He has a supernatural obsession with hair. He believes he can read the future and assess somebody's overall power and virility by reading their hair. During the first session, they were fighting a bunch of elves, and he wasted time. He took an action to tumble behind one and cut a chunk of his hair off and throw it in his pocket while they were fighting. Again, yeah, he's really obsessed with hair. Gerhardt is the bard. He is obsessed, not obsessed, he was, he basically, he sings and inspires his allies, and he was tricked by one of his friends and given a drink that kind of poisoned him and tainted his voice magically, and I think his nickname is G Pain, and I think he's going to be singing in auto-tune when he uses his bardic abilities, which will be both hilarious and terrible. We'll see how it goes. Evan's a barbarian. He has the shark totem. So basically, when he's raging, he gets really angry and super strong, and his jaws unhinge, and he bites things horribly. He basically tore through some guy's armor and almost ripped off his arm in the last fight. Funbar is a goblin alchemist who throws bombs. Hemo is a goblin sorcerer who is what kind of spells does he specialize in? I want to say fire, but let's go to his actual sheet and look around. Magic missile, grim tendril. So no, not fire. I was wrong. So, but basically, he's a blasty kind of sorcerer. He's not looking to support his allies. He's looking to be throwing stuff at enemies and hurting them. And Karen, I mean, the D might be silent as I said earlier. She's a champion, so she's a really big fighter, super high strength. And she's got a horse chopper, which is kind of like a pole arm, but it's kind of crappily made, like you'd expect a goblin to make. So yeah, that's the party, and I was explaining earlier about how, you know, they attacked this port, and they just tore through these elven dockhands. These elves were kind of just working the docks, and they caught them by surprise. They sprung out, they stabbed everybody, and they've secured the dock. And now that they've done that, they're moving through the kind of the hinterlands, the forests, and the rural areas, the farms that the elves have, and they're heading towards this town of Thaeth, which I was kind of just statting up live in front of anybody and everybody who happens to be here. Hopefully not my players. I've asked them not to come to these, but I hope my players aren't eavesdropping and trying to figure out what they're going to fight. So yeah, so I set up this fight down here where they have this druid. There's this magical tree here, and, you know, elves love magical trees. So I figure they have a druid here who's going to help buff these little leaf leshies, which are kind of like plant people. I can make these non-invisible so you can actually see them a little bit. You can see there are these plant people, leaf leshy things, who are weak by themselves, but together, kind of in a group, they'll do some damage. And one of the abilities that I laughed at when I read it was when they die, they basically explode and they heal other plants. So if they're all ganged up on one goblin and he stabs one of them to death, and the other ones are kind of injured, he poofs and heals his buddies, which is kind of a fun little gimmick. So yeah, the idea is that, you know, the druid will be engaging with one of them, and maybe the leaf leshies kind of glide down and attack another one, and they start poofing and exploding and healing each other. So, well, again, we'll see how that goes. Players will always surprise you, so it's entirely possible that this doesn't go like that at all. So, yeah, I figure the players will come in from over here, and then in the other areas, like down here, they'll see some of their allies fighting, the NPC allies that were on the boat with them. They'll see it over here, kind of just like, you know, basically from all the areas of the forest, these troops are going to come in and surprise the city. They've got the element of surprise. They were able to stop the elves from signaling the alarm on the dock, and they're going to just attack. So I figure you can only have, if I'm counting fights again, so you got the Watchtower 1, the forest clearing 2. This could be an optional one. I could always save this for later and kind of reuse the map with different creatures in it. In the Homestead, that's 3, and then you're in Thaeth. And then you have this town guard up here, just kind of an introduction. Oh, we entered the town, we've been spotted, we're going to fight these 2 guards, which is the same thing as the Watchtower. They're the exact same units. Just reusing them. And then kind of draw their attention to this magical tree that seems special, or maybe NPCs are down there shouting that they're being killed by some of the plants down here, and kind of make them run down here and do that. And then I think that's probably enough fights. Maybe I want to have one more set up. I'm not sure exactly what I want to do or where I want to do it. I think having something over here across this bridge might be pretty cool. The scale, and I'm not too sure of the scale. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to use this ruler. So, like, this river is like 20 feet wide. That seems kind of small. I guess over here it's a bit bigger. Like, if you were really good at acrobatics, you could actually jump that, which is a little... Maybe it should be bigger. But also, if I made the scale any smaller or whatever, if I made the squares on the map any smaller, I think it would be too big in some areas. Like, I don't know how big you want this. Like, that's 20 feet. You don't want to have this be like 40 feet if you doubled the scale, for example. You know, and these things are like 10 feet wide. You don't want to have them be like 20 feet wide. So I don't really want to spend a whole lot of... Yeah, I don't want to scale any further down than this, I don't think. But yeah, so if something was over here, they could potentially be engaging across the river. If there were like guards came out from over here and they saw them fighting the Druid, they could be over here with longbows shooting across, and draw their attention back over here. I don't think I'd want to use more guards. It seems kind of boring to have even more guards. If they've dealt with them in the Watchtower and they dealt with them here, I don't think I'd want to have, oh, just another 2 guards here, because that's kind of boring. So maybe I'd come up with something more interesting. Maybe a ranger or a fighter or some kind of like local hero, like the Gaston of this area, you know, the an elf that's a retired fighter that's kind of just gone back to this little sleepy village on the edge of the Elven Empire to retire. And maybe he'll be there, and I'll figure out something like that. So the Druid is kind of like the big fight. I think that's going to be, he's a level higher than the PCs. And we're going to have the Leaf Leshies supporting him. So that's going to be like the big fight. So we're going to have the little one kind of just throwing some guards at them. And, you know, the guards can hold their own for a little bit, but the goblins will probably overrun them. Suck him into the Druid fight, which is big and intense. And then have kind of like a come down fight, which is going to be, I think I want to keep it moderate, not trivial, not something they're going to just crush. But maybe, again, have something over here like a fighter, which is good and also has the terrain advantage. If they've managed to be sucked down here, if I manage to funnel them or get their attention in that area, then you have the terrain advantage where they've got to run all the way up here. They can take cover behind this rock along the way, but they've got to run all the way back up here, and this guy's maybe plinking at him a little bit, giving him an annoyance, and we'll see what we do with that. So I think that's all I would have them do, because again, I don't want them to have to fight, you know, door to door. I don't want the goblin party like fighting this building and this building and this building and that building. I want to have them do like, you know, 2, 3. I feel like 3 is the most. I want to say 4, but 4 is too many. You know, have them do 2, 3 fights, and then their allies have also done fights the whole time they're running around doing this, and then basically the town is conquered. So, like I said, it's a small town, about 200 people. And a lot of those people are farmers living in like the periphery of the town. So the actual town proper doesn't have a whole lot of people inside of it. And as part of this attack, they're going to kill like, I think a total like, you know, a dozen guards and whoever else kind of stands against them. So, you know, it's going to be like 150 people left in the town. And that's still a lot. That's a potential resistance. And I want to see what the party makes of that. I want to see what their decisions are in terms of, you know, their objective is to take this town and secure it. Are they gonna start murdering elves? Are they gonna start murdering like the blacksmith here? Are they gonna kill the mayor? I don't know. We're gonna figure it out. Or are they gonna try to just impose martial law and just kind of throw their weight around and, you know, we're in charge now. We'll see what it is. I have some ideas of how I can kind of push them to the not genocide option. I'm going to have some NPCs suggest that maybe these warriors that came here that are attacking, they don't know a whole lot about farming, and that it is still like, you know, farming season. It's not like the winter when everything's just like lying fallow. So maybe it would make sense to leave some elves alive to tend to the land, because, you know, eventually if the humans are going to use this city, this port, if the humans are going to do anything, maybe they're going to want those crops. So at the very least, they could encourage them to leave some elves alive. But we'll see. I leave it up to them to kind of decide. I mean, again, Apilius is the general leading it. He's an NPC, so I can make him make the final call. But I want to have some of the lower level NPCs kind of talk to the party and have both sides of the coin. I want to have some NPCs that are, again, making the argument, we should leave some of these people alive. They can help us. They can serve us. They can farm. Like, I'm not a farmer. I'm not going to go out to the fields. I'm not looking to do that. That's not why I joined the army. And then on the other side of the coin, I want to have some really brutal, grisly stuff going on. Like maybe have some half-orc NPCs or dwarves or something like that have been, moving through the forest much like the party has, and they've got like a necklace of elf ears or something like that. They've got grisly, gruesome trophies that are like, yeah, these elves are the enemies. We should just slaughter the entire town, and have that argument take place. I want to see where they go with it. Again, they're goblins, and no one is explicitly good, as far as I'm aware. I didn't actually look at their alignments. But as far as I'm aware, no one is explicitly good. I can do a quick inventory right now to see if they actually did that. Does this have an alignment thing on? I thought it did. Eyeball on it. Chaotic neutral right there. Boom. Chaotic neutral. Chaotic neutral. Chaotic neutral. I wonder if that's like the default or if they've all picked chaotic neutral. No, regular neutral. Neutral evil. There you go. Neutral. Chaotic neutral. Neutral. Yeah, so no one is good. No one is explicitly good. So it's entirely possible they opt for, like, yeah, we should start hacking up elves right now. We don't want any problems. Again, I like to guide them away from that, both because, genocide is disgusting, and also because I'd like to have elves in the town for them to interact with. I want, basically, after they take the town, they have to occupy it for a short while, at least a couple of weeks, because the king is going to be sending more soldiers and colonists. Basically, they want to take over this port. So they need to hold it for maybe 2 weeks while the king is getting things together. Because the elves and Apilius and their boat, they moved very quickly. They are like the strike team that's here to break the town, but they're not meant to stay here and occupy it. They're going to go on to bigger and better things, but they have to at least stay here to make sure no elves come back and try to take the town back. So they're going to occupy it for 2 weeks. And during that 2 weeks, I want to have elves in the town that they can interact with, and kind of learn a bit about the elves and figure out what's going on. And also, I want the elves to resist. I want there to be some elves that don't like the fact that they were conquered, even though a lot of the soldiers and the guards were killed, and all the notable people. Maybe the guy who runs the carpentry shop is not happy that these goblins are throwing their weight around. And I want to have that happen. I want to have, some turmoil. I want to have some fights like that. I don't have those statted up or planned yet, but basically I want to see who survives, who's not murdered by the party in the next session, and kind of come up with stuff like that. Additionally, I want to start going towards I want to play up in like the third session, so the one after the next one. I want to have guerrillas in the woods. I'd already kind of hinted at that when I showed you that the hunter I have at the Watchtower is actually a weak guerrilla. And do I have any fights? Not forest clearing. Forest canopy. So I have this one that I kind of threw together already, where there are 2 guerrillas and a chemist. So a chemist is like, it's an alchemist. It throws bombs. And it has a bunch of different types of bombs, I think. If I go to bottled lightning, alchemist fire, acid flask. So basically, this guy throws bombs, and depending on which one he throws, he can, the fire one immolates them and they take fire damage every round. The bottled lightning can deafen people and stuff like that, and make them I forgot what else makes them stunned, or does this not say? Or maybe the compendium has a version of it though. Let me see if it does, because that might save me some clicks if I can do that in the future. So I go to equipment, and I go lightning. Right, bottled lightning. I assume it's the lesser one because he's not throwing super expensive stuff, I don't think. 1d6 electricity damage and 1 electric splash damage. On a hit, the target becomes flat-footed. Yeah, so I'm going to replace these now, because I guess the NPC that was created as part of the bestiary, or the NPC codex, doesn't have the actual items in them. It has, just statistic versions of it. So they have 2 of these. If I drag 2, is it going to do 2? No, it's going to do that. I'll just do that. I'll do it for now. So I'm going to delete those bottled lightnings. Yep. And so I replace them with the other ones, and then I'll go Alchemist Fire. Alright, so then Lesser Alchemist Fire, boom, boom. And Acid Flask. Alright, Lesser Acid Flask, boom, boom. And they have a dagger. And the reason I'm taking the time to do this, replacing these with the actual statistical versions of them, is, an Elixir of Life. Is because we have this cool loot sheet. I'll show you how it works in a second. I'll go Lesser Elixir of Life, 2 of them, right? Okay. And then I'll delete all of these non-static versions. And now he actually has items. Okay. So, as I was saying, we have this cool loot sheet that they added in one of the most recent versions of the Foundry tabletop, where you can click on this, and this is basically the common loot. This is all of the things the party has looted in the game. And real quick, I will show you that if I, drag this elixir of life over here, it shows up in the loot sheet. So then once they kill a guy, you can take all their loot, and there's actually a button that says loot selected tokens. I don't want to do it right now because I don't want to kill a guy and take all his items and have to put them back. But if you select the chemist and you hit the loot selected tokens, it will take all of his items and suck it into the loot sheet. And then once you put them there, the players can take them and put them on their own sheets. They can divvy it up. They can say, oh, I want that potion. I want that alchemist fire, whatever. They can take it. And then later when they go to town and they want to sell things, they can liquefy the loot, basically. You can basically say, turn all loot into gold and stuff like that. And it does all the selling for you. So I'm pretty excited about this. Because, again, it's very easy to kind of take an NPC and just add the loot to a sheet, and then the party can figure it out later what they want to take and stuff like that. So this fight is in the canopy, and they give you these cross sections of trees. They're not actually cut down. They're supposed to be a very thick forest, and these are fully grown trees with coverage, but just so you can see how the map looks, they kind of give you the cross section. And I got a guerrilla here, and you can see they use rapiers, mind gouges, and short bows, and they're pretty efficient with all of them. So they have the same thing that I told you before, that skewer ability where they do bleed damage. They basically stab really well and then make them bleed. And they're pretty good about surviving in the wild, and they've got short bows for range attacks. And I have one over here behind a log, so he's going to be basically taking cover, take a shot, drag him in. And then I've got another one down here that I'm going to have kind of hiding and I'm hoping the party comes in from this side is kind of how I'm going to arrange it. And I want to have this basically, again, run at the one guerrilla and then have this guy from either down here or up here or wherever I feel like makes sense based on where the party's set up. Have him kind of spring out and attack with the swords. And have this chemist kind of hanging behind, lobbing bombs. The bombs have like a 20-foot range. So, he's going to be behind. Oops, again, that's kind of actually I could use that. So depending on where he's standing, you can see where he can throw bombs. So I want to have him safe either behind one of the ridges or behind another guy where he's just lobbing bombs, hopefully not getting beat on himself. And the guerrillas are party level, and the chemist is also party level. So that's 3 at party level. So bringing back up my my GM notes, you can see that party level +1 is 60. So that's 120, 180, which is this an extreme encounter? Wow. I guess it is. Yeah. I hadn't thought about that, but I guess it's an extreme encounter. But that's kind of fitting, I guess. That might be a little much. I might want to make one of the guerrillas weak. But I want this to be a deadly encounter. Or not deadly. I want this to be a scary kind of encounter. Because, like I said, during session 2, they're going to do all this stuff. They're going to take Thaeth. They're going to, basically assume control of Thaeth. And then at the beginning of session 3, I'm planning to just kind of narrate some of the occupation time. Again, they're going to be here for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is, until the colonists and other soldiers show up. So I'm just going to narrate, this amount of time passed and these sort of things happened. And one of the things that's going to happen is the guerrillas are going to be raiding the town. So they're going to attack, they're going to kill some of the NPCs, they're going to do something bad, they're going to steal something important. And then Opelius is going to order, hey, we're going to go out to the forest and try to track these people down. And then doing that, fighting elves in the woods is going to prove to be a bad idea. And some of the patrols are going to lose people too. So again, they only came with 60 people on a fairly small boat. So when, when 1 or 2 of them die in a raid, or 1 or 2 of them died in the forest trying to find them, it's going to be a very big deal. And I want to impress upon them that although they took the city and it was very easy, the elves have not given up, and the handful of elves that are woodsman type elves, woodsperson type elves, they're not to be messed with, and they're very good in the forest. They move very nimbly through the forest. They don't get caught on the branches the way we do, and that this is definitely their forest, and it's a very bad situation. And I want to kind of I want to stress that in the narration that I'm going to come up with, and then I want to give them this fight in the canopy where hopefully they have a scary encounter where they go from, oh, we rocked those guys, we did that was an easy fight, to, oh man, these guerrillas are serious and that chemist really messed us up. Like we weren't ready for that. We weren't ready to have fire bombs exploding on us. We weren't ready to be stunned or flat-footed by the electric bombs, stuff like that. So I kind of want to encourage that scary feeling. I want to tell them how scary it was and how people are dying. Your allies are dying. This dwarf guy, hopefully an NPC that I can have them talk to. One of these guys just died. Like one of the people you talk to died. And then you have this kind of fight where you could see how someone could die doing this. And I wanted to impress upon them, hey, this is really bad. And that's pretty much it. That's kind of where I've gotten so far. I have a little bit more, but that's my next couple of sessions. The next session is everything up to the taking of Thaeth, and then I want to give them this this forest canopy encounter, and I want them to be kind of afraid of what's going on. And the next thing I had set up is kind of a chase scene. So I have over here, it's kind of just, it's not a traditional combat encounter kind of thing. It's not going to be like, we're not moving tokens on the map to fight and making all your attack rolls. It's essentially, they're going to find an elf guerrilla leader, and I'm trying to figure out how that's going to take place. I don't know if I want to have a regular fight that he escapes from, or if I'm going to have, I think at the end of this forest canopy fight, where they're fighting and barely winning, maybe I'll have one of the elves survive and they could question it, and they'll get some kind of tip or information about where the guerrilla leader is being kept, and they can go chase him. And essentially when they find him, it's not going to be like a stand-up fight. It's going to be, oh crap, he's running away, and he's an elf. He moved very well through the forest. So this is kind of a skill-based fight. So instead of just, straight up fighting him, it's going to be like you have to chase him through. And I have these notes, and I don't know why. Yeah, there you go. That's better. So I kind of have some notes, and I'm using Evernote for this stuff. I don't know. Some people talk about World Anvil and stuff like that. I think that's more for designing the world and environments and stuff like that. But if you've got recommendations for tools, I'd like to hear about them. I'm just primarily using, like I said, Evernote, at least right now. So I've got some ideas here, and basically there are going to be there's 6 challenges. So the way this is going to be is basically the elf is running away. The party and whoever else, maybe some of Peleus's troops, I haven't decided if I'm going to do that or not, are following. And in order to catch them, they basically have to make these skill checks. And I've decided there's going to be like a pit trap. So when they first find them and they're running through the forest, there's a trap where the guerrillas have set up, don't fall into it, basically. And if they successfully make it, then they kind of move past it and move up 1 or 2 squares on this little track we have here. If they fail, they take some damage, and they move slower up the track if they move at all. Basically, they have to spend time pulling the guy out of the pit. And the elves are going to be moving along pretty quickly. I think the elves are either going to auto-succeed or have a high enough bonus that they're very likely to move through all of these. It might just be kind of a dramatic thing that they auto-pass until they're far enough ahead that maybe, then he stumbles at 4 or something like that. But I'll feel that out as I'm playing. But yeah, so the idea is that there's going to be like this pit trap where they need to make athletics checks or make perception checks to get bonuses. So, you can spot the pit before you fall on it. And then eventually there's going to be this tangled forest. And while we're doing this, we're going through all this stuff, I also have journal entries for all of these. So, you start with the forest path, which is this picture in the background. Just kind of see, you watch as the Elven guerrilla leader runs up through these rotting forest Elven kind of ruins. And then you have the pit trap, so you go boom, and you can spot it or you can fall into it. Whatever happens. So I'm describing all of this stuff, and I'm using these pieces of art to kind of show you what's going on, and then at each marker making relevant skill checks, kind of stuff like that. So there's the pit trap, and then like I said, they come into the tangled forest, and you can see that basically the overgrowth is getting higher over here. And then basically there's always 2 ways to make the check. So at each skill challenge, there is 2 ways to do it, and one is usually easier than the other. So when you're moving through the tangled forest, you can make a survival check to see how well you know the wilderness, how good you are at moving through the woods, and it's easier. If you're good at survival, you will have an easier time making this. If you don't have survival, or if you're really bad at it, you can make a perception check to kind of just visually spot which way you think is better, but it's more difficult. It's not as effective as using survival. So that's the tangled forest, and then after that we have this rushing river where the elf is going to nimbly jump across the rocks because, hey, I'm an elf, I'm agile as heck. And to move across, you can try to find a ford nearby, you can ford the river, and like, you know, where it's not as rushing basically. And maybe that takes you a little slower. Maybe that only moves you a certain like 1 or 2 squares instead of however many the elf is moving. Or you can just hop across with athletics. You know, you can basically deal with the slippery rocks and just jump and get across, but it's a little harder. After the rushing river, there are steep hills. And again, similarly, you have athletics to just straight up climb them, or you can use perception to find a better way up. Basically, you find, oh, there's more handholds over here, or the elevation changes easier over here, something like that. So, yeah, that's it. And then after that is the bears then. So they're stumbling along, and hopefully they can notice it. So this one has a couple more options. Oh, let me move this over. I just realized that my head is blocking some of those words. All right. So for the bear's den here, basically they can notice the bear's den before they see any bears. They can, like, they're walking through the forest and they notice, hey, this looks like a bear's den, and there's no bears in it. They're kind of out and about right now. But by the time they find them, it's going to be like a mother and her cub. So it's like a very serious situation that you don't want to just stumble into. You don't want to get in between the mother and the cubs or too close. So it's going to be like, you know, a stealth to get away from them. It's going to be pretty easy to get away, especially if you've noticed them. If you want to be able to handle the situation and kind of like, you know, pose as non-threatening, or you know, basically use your knowledge of nature to kind of get away with it. There's that skill. And if you want to go the really hard route, you can try to scare the bear. You can get really big and, you know, try to be the bigger bear. And that's the hardest of the checks. But a 16 intimidate check for this party isn't that bad. They're hitting that regularly in their combats. So maybe they want to just be a goblin shouting at a bear to scare it off. And also, if they want to completely ignore the bears, if they want to go around like the long way, I'll allow them to do that, but they're going to move slowly. Like, so, you know, if you're moving up like 2 every turn, whatever it is, moving up slowly, you have to stay in place for a whole turn. So you lose a whole turn. So, you know, the elf is, you know, he's clipping his way up there, and then you decide, I'm going to go all the way around, and you waste a whole turn letting him get away. So, there's that, and then there's what? After the bear's end, there's deep mud. So it gets all muddy, and I have to write up a little more descriptive text for this. I got to figure out how I want to describe everything, but this is kind of the gist. So again, you can make a perception check to find drier areas, or you can just athletics to slog through. So this isn't being nimble and jumping on rocks. This is like lifting your legs and kind of marching through rough terrain. And that's the gimmick. So, you know, the idea is that I hit on a bunch of different skills. I didn't make it so that there's one thing that you know, it's not like, oh, everybody's making a survival check at every stop. And the thing is that, so everybody is going to be making the checks every time. So again, we have a varied selection of skills, but everyone has to make the check, and like the worst person slows everybody else down. So if you're going to the mud and you do athletics and you roll like a 2 and you critically fail the check, like everybody has to stop and pull you out of the mud, or choose to leave you behind, I guess. So the thing is that the players are probably going to be moving slower than the elves, and that's kind of by design to kind of make them feel the struggle. I'm not going to, you know, rob them of anything if they're doing well. I'm not going to force them to fail, but I do want them to see that the elves are much better at moving through the forest, and that they will eventually slip up and fail or go slowly through one of these, and the elves will get through. The gimmick is that they can't overtake the guerrillas, is the idea. So I'm going to be rolling things secretly, and I do hate fudging dice, but at the end of the day, for the sake of the story, the elves have to clear this to get to the next scene. So there's going to be this dramatic tension, and I'm going to, you know, play it up as, you know, they're here, blah, 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 you're catching up. And Opilius's troops, if they are in the mix, the idea is that they will be significantly slower. Maybe they're more heavily armored than the goblins. They're tracking too much or whatever it is. They're not as good at jumping over all of the various problems in the forest. So, you know, they're going to see, like, you know, the elves are cruising. They're doing well, but maybe stumbling. And Opilius's troops are really having a bad time of it. So, you know, we're going to have it so that they can see that they're doing well, but the elves are just, they're made. They live here. This is their forest. So we kind of want to paint that kind of a picture. And so this is the third session we're talking about now. So that's kind of, we talk about the forest canopy fight, which is serious. Then maybe we have some information about where the guerrilla leader is. Maybe they rest for a day, or maybe they just heal up if they're well enough to go out that day. And they go to find him, and that triggers this chase scene. And the chase scene is a bunch of skill checks, which will take some time, but not as much as a fight. Hopefully, we'll find out. And then the final encounter of the third session, my plan is to look at, what's the scene here? The scene is the Water Temple, which is one of the ones I have set up the least. So this is a big Water Temple map. Forget who I got it from. Ralph Sheman, mapsandmore.com. So I found it. I think I found it on Reddit. I do get a lot of my things on Reddit. I look at our D&D maps. I look at our battle maps, and there's a couple other ones that I'm on. And I found on Reddit there are a bunch of people who they link to their Twitter and stuff like that. And there is a pretty vibrant community on Twitter itself where people kind of promote each other a lot. And there's a lot of cool cartographers out there that are making really great stuff. And I try my best to link to them. If you ever go to my Twitter, again, JMoski on Twitter. Whenever I'm running a session, I try to shout out people on Twitter if I know their handles, saying like, hey, this map was made by Spell Arena, check them out, and stuff like that. So I'm supporting a couple on Patreon. I should probably support more. But a lot of them gave away a lot of free maps, especially around like Christmas time and Humble Bundle time. They gave away a bunch of free maps, so that was really cool. So this is the Water Temple. So the gimmick is that the elf guerrilla leader is going to run to this Water Temple. It's a Water Temple of Gozreh, the Paizo Pathfinder god of the sea, storms, air, stuff like that. And they're going to run to this temple, and he is going to ask for sanctuary in the temple. He's going to run here and cry to the priest for sanctuary, and they are going to grant it. And the party is going to get here. It's going to be, this you can tell the temple is on the water. It's actually open to the sea, as a bunch of Gozreh temples are. They're usually open to the air and/or sea. So they're going to get here, and they're going to watch the guerrilla leader run inside, or if they were very slow in the chase, maybe they don't actually watch him, but they can track his feet or something, because he's running through the mud and everything like that. So, long story short, they're tracking the guerrilla leader to this place, and when they bang on the doors and ask to get in, if they even bother to ask, I have some priests here in the front. Let me make them visible so you can actually see their token. I have some priests here in the front. There's like an acolyte with like a little net. You can tell they're the priests of the sea god, got a net. And this other acolyte over here, very elven looking acolytes. They're going to be here behind the doors, and they're going to tell them, go away, you're not wanted here, stay out of the temple. And if they specifically ask about the person, they're going to mention that he has asked for sanctuary. He's been provided sanctuary by the Temple of Gozreh. And by this point, I hope between the interactions in the town and between the narration of the third session where I explain, like, these elves are killing you, these elves guerrillas are murdering you, they're murdering your friends, and you've lost all these people in this week or two that you've been here, and then also the close encounter of the severe encounter in the forest canopy. I'm hoping between all of that, and also if I play up kind of a Pilius is saying, like, this has got to end, we've got to murder all these elves, we got to put down this resistance. I hope between all of that they basically want to break into, or encouraged by Pilius, to break into this temple where they've offered him sanctuary. I want them to come in. I don't know if they're going to fight or kill the acolytes. Up to them. But eventually, if they move into the main chamber here, there is, I have this elf guerrilla leader over here. That's him. I have another elf guerrilla. I'm not sure if I want to have a friend with him. I got to feel out how this fight's going to go. But I have here an elf priestess of Gozreh, which is a bit bigger than the acolyte. And I have, most importantly, I have this Triton here. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in and, why is my right click working? Come on. There you go. I'm going to make him visible so you can see. So there's like Triton. There's like a fish person, not a mermaid, because he doesn't have a mermaid tail. He has he has flippery feet, so he can be underwater and also is okay on land, but not great on land. So the gimmick here is that he's a Triton. He's a priest of Gozreh, and there's another priest of Gozreh, and the elf guerrilla leader is here, and maybe this other elf guerrilla. I haven't decided if I need him or not. I figure this fight might be enough with just all that. They're offering him sanctuary, and if the players burst in here, just by virtue of bursting in here, they've kind of despoiled the temple. They've desecrated this place, and the priestess and the Triton are going to try to stop them. And the priestess has some spells. Does she not have spells? Where's the spells at? I thought she had spells. Did I not give her? Oh, she has some, but they're not showing up here. I wonder why. I wonder what I did wrong. Oh, maybe I have to give her these. If I put 6 there, does that change it? No. Alright, I have to figure out why she doesn't have her spells, why they're not showing up. But she does have them. Oh, those are empty cantrips. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But I did give her some spells. So basically, her gimmick is she's like a water priest. She has gust of water and air priest because she's Gozreh. So she has like tidal surge and gust of wind. So basically, she's going to be pushing people with wind and water and doing some minor like cold damage. And the Triton's kind of in a similar boat. They have some spells, but their real gimmick is they can summon aquatic allies. And I haven't decided what I want to summon. I have a bunch over here. I've got like a manta ray, an electric eel, and a reef octopus. So I think I'm going to go with the octopus just because I like octopuses. I like octopi, and I know I have a player who likes octopi as well. But I think the electric eel is actually one of the better ones. Jaws and tail at a 6/6, and this octopus. Oh no, I guess the octopus also hits pretty hard too, and it has cool like ink cloud. It has all these cool abilities. So I'm probably gonna go with the octopus. I think that'd be the most annoying thing. So they're gonna come in and they're bursting in, and the priestess is gonna shout about how they're defiling the temple and that this is absurd. And then they're gonna fight. The priestess and the Triton are gonna be fighting. Is gonna summon some kind of aquatic ally, probably an octopus. The ranger's going to be up here. I'm going to make it so you have to go through like this door and then come up the stairs to get him. So he's in an elevated position with his bow, which is very frustrating. And the priestess is here going to be trying to take cover here. And I've actually set up this one with walls. Most of the other maps didn't have walls because they're just in the forest. I didn't bother putting like walls on all the trees. But you know, they can take cover now. If the priestess moves behind this, the vision blocking will make it so you can't actually see her. And you know, they'll have cover. They'll be able to take cover around things like that. So that's the fight. It's going to be like the big kind of epic finale to the session 3. Is they're in this temple. This priest is kind of throwing air and cold and water spells at them. It's, you know, using the roaring water from the ocean that's coming in and out, picking it up and pushing people with it, bull rushing them, pushing them towards the Triton and pushing them away from the elf that has sanctuary. And yeah, and then there's going to be a fight, and I assume the goblins are going to kill everybody. I assume that the party's going to come in and not change their mind and just murder everybody. And that's the MacGuffin's not the right word. That's the impetus. That's the going back to the beginning of the stream when I was talking about the fact this is kind of going to be a Westmarches meets the Odyssey kind of campaign, where it's going to be there's a boat full of goblins that they have rumors, they hear about, you know, islands they want to visit, stuff like that, and they decide what they want to do. They get the party together, and then they go. And this is it. This is the impetus. They defile a temple of Gozreh. They kill priests or injure priestesses. They kill Triton. Like this is like a favored cleric, a favored servant of Gozreh here, and presumably they're going to kill these people. They're going to defile the temple and kill them. And then Gozreh does not like this. Just like in the Odyssey, Neptune or whatever his name is didn't like it, and you know, just messed up your whole stuff. Like basically, you went back to sail home. Odysseus got in his boat to sail home, and he's like, "Nope, I'm gonna just, you know, you pissed off. You killed Polyphemus. I'm gonna just bat you away, and make you take 10 years to take this trip home. It should be a couple of weeks. It's gonna be a 10-year journey." So yeah, that's going to be basically like they're going to do this. They're going to quash the rebellion. They're going to defile this temple. They're going to go back to the elf town. And then there's going to be relatively calm from that point on. The elves are not going to be resisting anymore. The guerrilla leader was destroyed. A lot of other things have happened. They're not going to be... They're just going to hold the town. And then they wait another week or two, whatever it is. And the party... The main army comes, the colonists come, and they are freed up to do their next mission, which is basically going to be leapfrogging to another port city, or maybe meeting up with a larger fleet or something like that. Basically, like again, they were an early, fast-moving strike team, and now that the king has had another month or so to build up forces to get his stuff in order, there might be a bigger assault on a larger city. So that's what's going to happen, and then Gozreh decides, nope, you're not going that way. I'm gonna flick you into the crazy archipelago of wondrous creatures and sirens and all sorts of crazy things. So that's kind of the gist of the campaign that I'm looking to run, and the kind of encounters that are going to get me from here to there. I had thought for a while about just starting them in the Odyssey, like just say, all right, you're all on a boat, you're all doing this crazy stuff. But I really wanted specifically this scene to happen. I very much want the party to do the thing that pisses off Gozreh. Gozreh. I think that's critically important. I can't just be like, oh, some god doesn't like you, or like you ended up in this weird situation. They have to come here. They have to hate the elves. They have to really hate this guerrilla leader. They have to really want this to end, either by their commanding officer telling them to do this, or by them just saying, this is really bad, we have to kill this guy, I don't care that he ran into a temple. We need to figure that out. So that's what I want to happen. That's what I want them to get here. I want them to do this. I want them to encounter the Triton. I want them to kill the Triton and the priestess. I want them to piss off Gozreh, and I want them to get messed up by the god. That's all I really have. So I said I was going to stream till midnight, and I don't really have much more to talk about. That's what I've kind of have ready, and I guess I could go back to the town of Thaeth and think more about it and actually stat some more stuff up if I want to kill time. How many people are actually in the chat? Just me and Zortrek. Is it Zortrek? Have you ever played Pathfinder? Have you played any role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons before? You played D&D once? Okay. Did you like it, or did you not like it because you only played one time? And then did you play at a table, or did you play online using something? Trying to think what I should search on to do that. Another thing I can do is if I bring over a tab here, I can go ahead and go like 2E. PRD. Oh, you were a game master? You played once and you were a game master? How'd that go? You had never played before and you jumped right into being a game master? That is bold. How'd that go? Yes, I wanted to go to what is it? Is there NPCs or something? I thought there was a thing for NPC. Hazards, getting NPCs here. Your party did everything possible to screw with the story. Yeah, that is that's kind of that's kind of how games tend to go. Yeah, they gave up. So you ran one session and they just messed with your story the entire time and you gave up. Yeah, that is not uncommon. Parties like to do stuff like that. They like to. I think part of the fun is definitely messing around with the story, and some people are really into doing funny stuff. They want to just get the laugh. They're there for the lulls, and some people are there to seriously role play, and some people are there to just roll dice and kill stuff. So you got to find what your party's into, what your players want to do, and then roll with it. Or if you don't want to do that, like you said, give up. If you're not looking to play the game where people are being silly and messing with your story, just it's not worth your time. But luckily, again, over the years, I made a bunch of friends that I like playing D&D with, I like playing Pathfinder with, and it's really great. And we have some funny times, we have some crunchy number times. I got a lot of engineering friends that are really into crunching the numbers. So we played Pathfinder 1 for a very long time because you can get that kind of crunch. You can optimize and min-max to your heart's content. But we're switching over to 2E now because the game I just feel like it moves faster. I feel like it's much more interesting on a GM side with all the cool things monsters can do. But yeah, how long ago was that you played D&D? Was that D&D 5, like the 5e, the new one, or 3.5 or 4? What were you playing? One or 2 years ago. Probably 5 then, unless you were playing an older version. I wonder if it's under creatures. Oh yeah, NPCs, there you go. Families, criminals, devotees, downtrodden, explorers, firebrand, foresters. Yeah, you were probably playing D&D 5 if you were playing a couple of years ago. So right now what I'm doing is, while we're chatting, I'm looking for like what I talked about before, like the Gaston kind of. I want to have like a retired fighter here. So once they fight the guards and once they fight the druid here, I want to have something, maybe their level, maybe just one level above them. Mercenaries. I'm looking for a creature too. Bodyguard might be interesting. We'll take a look at that. Everything else is too high. I don't want to. Mage. They haven't fought a mage yet. There's nothing. I'll click on that. A weak mage for hire might be interesting. They're gonna fight some clerics at the end though, so maybe they don't need a mage. Were you running an adventure path, or did you make your own homebrew stuff when you were running it? I am playing this game is playing next Saturday, so we play every other week, and then in between I'm doing this sort of thing where I talk about my session prep and stuff like that. I am also playing a game tomorrow. If you go to my YouTube, I have a game that I don't play live. I don't stream it. I kind of just record the sessions in post. We've been playing for 4 years through an adventure path from Pathfinder 1 called Hell's Vengeance, which is the evil campaign by Paizo. And it's pretty good. We're about to finish the 4th book of 6. So again, we've been playing for 4 years. We're averaging a book a year, which is pretty bad. But again, I have a group of friends that actually, we like to play together, and we've been kind of sticking through it. And that's also, during that time, 3 of us have had a baby each. And there's been a lot of downtime, and also we get a kind of off topic in that campaign. I know, like, we don't stick to the storyline. They were running for mayor at some point. They're running for city council instead of killing people. So it is what it is. But yeah, again, getting back to it, I play tomorrow, and I'll post that to YouTube. And if you want, you can check out the YouTube. Same name, Jay Mosky. We have like 4 years of we have 75 sessions of that game, and the previous session of this game. But specifically this game, the stuff I'm prepping now, you'll see in next Saturday being played. Yeah, and I'm gonna talk to my friends about thanks. Yeah, check out my YouTube. I don't have this spiel down. I don't have hit the doobly doo, subscribe, hit that bell. I don't have that whole thing set up. I don't have that down yet. But yeah, if you like what you see, subscribe. Let me know. Comment. We have a couple of dedicated fans. So not many, but a couple. But yeah, so yeah, check it out. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out if there's anything cool in here that's like around a creature 2. Okay, I gotta get search for creature 2. And I also, in this thing, the compendium browser, you can also set the levels. I can say only show me things that are level 2, but I'm specifically looking for. I don't want monsters. I wonder if there's traits. I can go humanoid. Is that one of them? This might work. Maybe. Okay, let's go with humanoid, and let's go levels 1 to 2, -1 to 2. We want it to be a little higher level. Let's go 1 to 2. Boggart Scout, Boggart Warrior, Bugbear Thug, Catfolk Pouncer, Deep Known, Dampier Wizard, Drow Fighter, Drow Rogue. So I did lift the Drow Fighter over here. I did kind of steal them and that's what I'm basing the Guerrillas off of. So a Drow Rogue would be interesting. He has a hand crossbow, so he'd be peppering, and I can always change that crossbow to a longbow. And then when they get close enough, he has a short sword, and he has nimble dodge, so he's going to be a little harder to hit. I'd take away the poison, because he's just not going to have the poison. But so that'd be interesting. That's something to keep in your pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my my actors thing over here. I'm going to go to Elf Assaults, Thaeth. I'm going to add the Leaf Leshy up there. And I'm also going to add this Drow Rogue here, just to keep it. Like I said, if I decide to go with it, it's here now. I don't have to go look it up in the compendium again. I'll drag it there, pick some art for it. Bombardier, I have an Alchemist, so I don't want to do that. I'm looking, the Rogue is interesting because I don't have anything rogue-like. Fighter, Ranger, I kind of have a bunch of those sort of things. Again, maybe the Wizard makes sense, but I don't really. Yeah, maybe Wizard makes sense. I don't know. We'll keep looking. Pyrochemist. Hydromancer. What was the one I was looking at on Nethys? Mage for hire. It's not in the list. It's not here. I don't have this mage for hire. I could copy and create this pretty easily, I think. But let's keep looking to see if there's anything in here that's like a mage or a obvious spellcaster. Pirate, poacher, prisoner, prophet. Prophet's like a cleric-y type thing, right? I don't want divine spells. Yeah, I want arcane spells or occult spells. Card captain. Rebel leader. What are you? You're a bard. That could be interesting. A bard. Yeah, I'll drag her over. It's more interesting than a drow rogue. But see, a bard, you kind of want to have more supporting characters with her. You want to have a couple of other, maybe some town guards. And then once you start doing that, once you have a bard, and she's level 1, you have some regular guards with her. I don't know if that gets too much. Nothing jumped out at me as being an arcane caster on this list. Is there a trait, perhaps? I don't see arcane or anything like that. Is there like a wizard trait? That'd be too easy, wouldn't it? Nah, that's what I thought. Yeah, so nothing jumped out. What if I change this to be 2 to 3? What if I just looked at 3s? I can make them weak. Oh, because, yeah, duh, the mage for hire was a 3. That's why it didn't show up on the other thing, right? Mage for hire, there it is. Burp. There you go. So, yeah, mage for hire, 3. I can make it weak. Or I could leave it alone. Again, if I go back to my my GM notes over here, a party level +2 is an 80. So that's only moderate by itself. That's actually not that bad. Oh, it's not even +2. This is a... Oh, yeah, it is. It's a 3. So, yeah. So maybe I do make it up. Maybe just drop the mage for hire in. I'm just curious. I'm just worried how... This is going to be a severe encounter here with the Druid and the Leshies, theoretically. But I do like the idea of there being a retired mage in town. So I think that's my move. I think that's what I'm going for. I'm just gonna commit to that. Drag a mage for hire. Oh, let me fix it over here first, because I don't like. We have to find the token. I don't like how it looks like the unknown face. So again, I go to my Devon Knight token folder. He's my boy. He's my man for tokens. And I gotta look for elves first. See if there's an elf. I can search for just wizards, and you can always just call them elves. It's more of a magus than a wizard. You look pretty good. I'll select you for now. That's pretty good too. Lightning. What spells does this wizard have? Magic Missile, True Stay, Grease, Mage Armor, Magic... Okay, that's what these has slotted. Got it. Flaming Sphere, Knock. So he does have some fire. He or she has some fire. So maybe I go with the Fire Sorcerer one right now. And they don't have to visibly look like a mage either. I could have just chosen, like, this one here. Ah, it is a wizard. But the fire one looks cool. I think I'm going to go with the fire one unless something else jumps out at me. So yeah, again, these are all Devon Knight tokens. I think there might be some that aren't him, but I think in this folder, everything is his. I bought almost all of his tokens. Not all of them, but almost all of them, and they're fantastic. I highly recommend him. I think his commissions are closed at the moment, but yeah, I also like to get custom tokens. I'm really hoping to hit him up sometime soon for custom Goblin tokens for the PCs, assuming they survive a couple more, maybe a session or two. Maybe I should just get that ball rolling because it takes time for him to get done with them. So I might poke Devon, even though he says his commissions are closed. If I can sneak something in. But yeah, I'm just gonna go with that Fire Sorcerer, the female sorceress. And prototype token, make sure that I pick it did pick it. Okay, cool. So update token. There you go. Now if I drag this mage for hire in, I guess I'll rename her before. I have in my thing here, I have in my notes. And again, if you have suggestions for note tools, please let me know, because again, I'm just using Evernote. So I have this town of Thaeth, which I'm kind of coming up with what ideas I have, and I just generated. I used some online generator. I forget which one. Come up with a bunch of elf names, and this is a. I'm gonna pick Talendra as a homage to one of my World of Warcraft friends from long ago, and I will go ahead and whatever. I'll just make it bold. I want to do strike through, but I don't have an easy button for that yet, so I'll just make it bold. And this will be Talendra. And the token, I don't want it to say Talendra, right? So I want it to say Elven Mage or something like that. So yeah, so we'll drag her on. And I could customize her spells, I guess, but I kind of liked what I saw so far. So Flaming Sphere is fun. Knock is a utility spell, so maybe I get rid of that and replace it with some other kind of blast, because this wizard isn't going to be doing that here. See, invisibility is probably not useful against the party in this context. So yeah, maybe I swap those out for some more blasty spells, more maybe the utility spells help somebody else. Mage armor is important. Magic missile is important. True strike. I don't know how that works in this version of the game. I don't know in 2E how True Strike works. The next time you make an attack roll before the next turn, roll the attack twice and take the better. Okay, so it's like a built-in hero point or advantage in 5e, whatever they call it. It ignores circumstance penalties to the attack roll, a flat check. Ooh, being concealed or hidden. That's cool. All right, so that's pretty useful if you want to be hitting with stuff. Does she have like a ranged weapon? She just has an invisibility potion. Good to know. Very good to know. It's very useful. So she could even escape. No ranged weapon, so she's going to be hurling spells, and I guess she could use True Strike. Is it a single action, or how many actions is True Strike? It is a single action. So you could cast that, and then you could cast... do you have a ranged touch spell? Not really. Electric Arc, I guess. Yeah, not super useful, but you could basically be guaranteed to hit with something. And if I swap out her second level spells, I might be able to get a more powerful spell in there. Maybe some kind of Flaming Blast or something. I don't know. I have to look. But that might be an idea. And then again, she has invisibility as a potion. So when they finally get to her, she's going to be invisible for, I assume, a couple minutes. So yeah, so she'll be over here. She'll see the Druid engaging with the Leshies. And maybe near the end of that fight, I have her come over and start flaming the party, like throwing bolts at them or summoning the flaming sphere at them or something like that, to kind of like get their attention. Hey, over here, you can't ignore me. I'm fighting you. So they come in, they fight some guards, they fight some druids and some leshies, then they get pulled into an elven mage, and they kill or take alive whoever they choose, and that's enough fights. I think, again, this is all for session 2. That's going to be the Watchtower, which is optional. They can skip it or not. The forest clearing, which I can make. I can do it depending on how fast they're going, or if they skip the Watchtower, I'll force them into it. The Homestead we talked about, and then the Town of Thaeth. And then there's 3 fights here. That seems like more than enough. That might be too much, so maybe we have to skip the forest clearing if they do the Watchtower. But that's not a problem. I could always add that somewhere else. And that's pretty much where I'm at. It's kind of basically where my head is at for the campaign. Like I said, I have all these notes that I'm working on. I'm kind of trying to flesh out the Town of Thaeth a little bit. I got a bunch of elf names. I'm coming up with ideas for the mayor, the druid here. Maybe have a Bastmaster that will survive the attack over here. And have some trained animals. Carpenter, I want to have like blacksmith. Basically it's a very small town, but I want to have, all of the important stuff in a fantasy town. Obviously there's no like magic shop. I'm not even sure if I want to have an alchemist or something like that on hand. Maybe I do. But again, it's mostly, this is a rural town, low level, barely anyone living here. And I have started labeling the buildings and coming up with ideas. So I have down here, I have this just basically the grand hall used for banquets and town meetings. It's not something that it's not used commonly. It's basically when the whole town gets together for something, they meet here. This amphitheater over here I kind of added because 2 of the players are bardish. So like I said, G-Pain is a bard. He likes to sing, and it's part of his backstory that he wanted to go to bard college and never actually got in. So I wanted him to have an amphitheater. And also Franco the swashbuckler has a bunch of performance related stuff. He has the goblin song ability. He has a little hand puppet that he mocks people with. So I want to give them a taste of, like, there's Elven culture even in this backwater naval whatever this tiny port city. Even here, they're going to see like these nice marble statues here in the Grand Hall. They're going to see this amphitheater where the people can put on small amounts of plays. Plays for small people. I mean, small amounts of people. And kind of get a taste for that. And if they do let the elves survive, if they don't start murdering all the elves, I want to see where they run with that. Maybe they're interested in doing something with that. Maybe they're interested in performing their own play or singing for the elves, something like that. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, so C is the mayor's office. Nothing really interesting happening there. There's some nicer lodging in town. There's also like crappier lodging. I want to make it clear that, again, as a kind of a port city, like the last port of call, maybe on their way out or their way back, there's like there's a couple of inns here of varying levels. There's the nice one, and then there's the one where a bunch, cheap sailors that are just here to get drunk for a night before they ship off the next morning. So there's nicer lodging. I have to come up with a name for it. I got to come up with tavern names and inn names. So yeah, there's nicer lodging. There's a tavern nearby. I don't know what I'm going to do with F. Maybe that's the Alchemist place we were talking about. I don't really have an Alchemist yet, so maybe I put it there. G is like where the carpenters are. There's going to be a couple of apprentices, stuff like that. They make barrels, boxes, and whatever else needs to be done for ships. I do have an alchemy place. There you go. I already made H as herbs and alchemy, so maybe F is the blacksmith, because I don't think I have a blacksmith yet. So yeah, herbs and alchemy. Low-level potions. So again, there's not going to be a magic shop. They're not going to be buying rings or magic weapons at this level. But there could be an alchemist place where they could get some low-level potions if they need them. I is going to be assigned to Serenray, which is basically like a gazebo kind of open to the sun with a lot of sun imagery on it. This is interesting for, the elves are praying to the same gods as the humans and everybody else, but they have slightly different imagery and stuff like that. Down here is the Beastmaster in the stable I talked about. Maybe have some kind of druid, or I guess I want to go with ranger now because I already have a druid somewhere else. Maybe there's an important or notable NPC there that kind of oversees the animals. This could play well with Squirrel is like an animal-focused ranger, the Goblin NPC, or Goblin PC, sorry. So they could either talk or have conflict. Maybe they end up killing him and taking all his animals. I don't know. But yeah, so basically maybe this guy will survive the fight and then have interactions with Squirrel and other players, and then also theoretically could be one of the people who helps rebel, or maybe if I want to throw like encounter that's not like a guerrilla attack in the town, he could be involved in it. Over here in K, I have the North Barracks and lodging. So basically, this is like a cheap lodging thing, and also like the main kind of guard tower, not guard post, I guess you call it, and that's where the party's going to kind of encounter their guards. L is the white oak and the little gazebos around it where you pray at. And like I said, it's going to be growing good berries or whatever. So, you can eat these and feel full for a day. There's enough of them to last a while. And they also heal you. Oh, 6 berries is a meal, apparently. I was looking at the new rules. I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget. And they expire 10 minutes after you pick them. So you can't just fill a bag with them and take them with you to the next fight. You basically eat them in town, and that's it. But yeah, long story short is you can heal between fights. So if they're fighting and this lady comes out and starts lobbing fireballs or whatever she's going to do, they can grab some berries, stuff them in their mouth, and go with that. I think that's pretty much I think I have down here, I also have like another guard post. So I'm not going to do anything with that. Like I said before, I'm going to have NPC allies of the party coming up from the bottom and coming through the forests over here. So I figured that I'm not going to need to do anything with that down there. This is going to be like another guard post. And that's it. That's where I'm at. That's the general idea of the campaign. I've kind of started a little bit of notes about what I want to do at the actual Odyssey part. So after they get through all this stuff and they go and they do the temple we talked about, and hopefully they defile the temple and kill the priestess of Gozreh. Once they do that, they're going to be kind of just pushed off of they're going to get back in their boat, think they're going one place, get pushed somewhere else, and then they're going to be pushed into this kind of ring-like storm that has an archipelago inside of it with all the fantastical creatures of mythology. So like the outside world is very boring. Like there's all the regular fantasy races. I say boring, but there are gnomes and stuff, so there's all that stuff going on. And then they get here, and then all the stuff they've heard stories of are real in here. Like, there's like a bunch of characters have sailing lore, because I kind of impressed upon them there's going to be sailing in the campaign. And so they're gonna know what sirens are, and they're gonna know about all these other aquatic things they've heard of in stories and never actually seen. And people doubt they really exist, but they'll be real in there. that's where the stories come from. Sometimes they get out, but basically Gozreh is going to shove these goblins and anybody else who survives this occupation through the storm, wreck their boat, and they're going to wake up in there, have to build a new boat, and kind of from there it's going to be, again, Westmarches. It's going to be, you hear these rumors, you need this, you need to find this for your boat, you need to do this. What do you want to do? There's like all these options. Figure out which way you want to go, and we'll go that way. And like I said, it's like a pickup type thing, where like whatever players are free that we can say, okay, we got these 3 people, these 4 people, what do we want to do? These are the ideas we've had, which way do you want to go? And I need to bake on that some more. I'm trying to figure out what else I want to put in the archipelago, like what inside the storm, what factions I want to have, stuff like that. I have some ideas. I like the idea of there being more Tritons. So the water temple we showed earlier, there was a Triton there. It's one of the favorite of Gozreh. So I was thinking of having like a Triton or a merfolk community where Tritons, again, they can be inside and out of the water. So I like the idea of them having kind of like an above water presence, and then a larger underground complex the party will eventually have to deal with. I want there to be giants. I feel, again, there's a bunch of giants in the, well, at least there's a couple of cyclopes in the Odyssey. So I want to have some kind of giant presence in there. Maybe have storm giants or frost giants. Something like that. Build some kind of society. I don't want to have super large empires. I don't want there to be an interesting, like, a large dominating presence there. I want there to be a lot of small factions, and kind of like the Odyssey, where like there's these islands with people on them, and people aren't like bugging each other. They're not going to Calypso's island and messing around with Calypso. She's just there. She's that crazy lady on that island that does those crazy things, and there are other people on other islands. So I wanted the majority of it to be like that, but I do want to have some factions that are kind of moving around and doing a little bit. So I kind of have to figure out that balance and figure out how I want to design that. And also, I got to get a better feel for the players and figure out what would they want to do here. And it's obviously that's much easier once you actually get them into the situation. But I kind of want to have a little bit of a little planning ahead. I want to get ahead of it like I did here. Basically, I planned at least like 2 or 3 sessions ahead so that I have most of the stuff ready to go. Obviously, things change, and you got to be flexible. Do what you got to do. That's the GM way of life. But I do try to be a little bit ahead of the players, and then they completely surprise you and go sideways and go somewhere else. And hopefully, the work you've done is flexible enough or applicable enough that you don't just have to throw it away. Like, I think all of the encounters I do, like even if they decide, you know what, we don't want to go to the Watchtower. They've already spotted it. They know where it is. They can decide we want to go far enough away and use our stealth, just pass by it. That's fine. Maybe. And this probably isn't throwaway. We could probably have a Watchtower somewhere else in the game at some other point. And it is what it is. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I finished earlier. I talk way too fast. So, I could add more stuff to Thaeth, but I don't really think I need to. I could add more encounters. Or I could spend time just kind of, again, looking at this list and coming up with what I want to do, what NPCs I want there to be. Like I said, I think this Beastmaster, Darian is what I called him. So I think this Beastmaster Ranger is going to be living there. And I don't know what kind of animals I'd want to give elves. Like, my go-to is always like a wolf or like a tiger or something like that. But let's see, like elves in a forest. What would they have? There's hunting dogs because they've used them in other scenes, so there are hunting dogs. Like a wolf is an idea. Trained birds. So in the NPCs on the boat that were coming with them, the friendly NPCs, one of them named Tala, I think her name was. She had or Thana. She had a covered cage of pigeons, and basically I inserted her because I want to have like messenger pigeons, basically, kind of like the ravens from Game of Thrones or whatever, but pigeons, actual pigeons, so that they can send messages back to once they take the town. So that she had 4, and Squirrel noticed. Squirrel, the ranger who's interested in animals, noticed, and he tried to take a peek under there, and she snapped at him. And she said, like, these ones ain't for eating, you dagger-toothed greenskin, or something horrible like that. And she offended him. So a couple nights later, he snuck over and he stole one. He went over, he opened the cage very quietly, pocketed one of the pigeons, and closed the cage again. So he stole a pigeon. He's running around with a hot pigeon now. So yeah, so maybe there's more trained birds in there, or maybe there's something like that. But yeah, I'll probably have some sort of trained birds, or like, ravenry or whatever it's called, rookery. So yeah, maybe the elves also use the trained pigeons to talk to each other. But yeah, I don't know what else I'd have the Beastmaster do. But the thing is, I'd like to have him survive. I'd like to have him be present and dealt with either diplomatically, or they could just outright murder him when the occupation is happening. I have a carpenter. I also want to have a blacksmith. I don't know what name I'm going to go with. So I'll just put question marks there for now. And again, I want it to be a small town. I want them to be able to do the sort of things that you might need to be able to do. They need to get things repaired. But the elves also aren't going to be outright helpful. They're not looking to, take all the PCs loot that they've just stolen from the elves they've killed, and give them gold for it. They're not looking to make them new weapons or things like that. But again, it's an occupation, so we have to figure out how they're going to deal with these people and what they're going to make happen. But yeah, I definitely want the players to feel like they are occupying this place. There's resistance even among the peaceful people. They're not here to help you. But I still want to flesh out at least most of this town, so we have something they can kind of role play with. And that's also something I tend to underestimate the time of. So I kind of, when I plan out the fights for the most part, like, so the whole time we were talking, like I said, in the second session, there's the Watchtower, the forest clearing, the Homestead, and then Thaeth. You're like 1 fight, 2 fight, 3 fight, 6 total fights possibly. And in my head, I'm like, 6 fights is a lot. Maybe 5 fights is better. 4 or 5 fights seems like. And then in my head, I completely forgot all the role playing that could happen. So my brain, again, I like the crunch. So my brain, I'm always doing that, and I'm figuring out. I forget to think, what kind of role play are they going to want to do? So we got to start. Let's start with that in mind in our brain now too. So we're back here. The coastal raid is over. They've secured this. We've already looted everything. We've talked about it. We'll probably only briefly go over the fact that they're here, they're done, they've looted it. We'll go over the loot again. We have the loot sheet. If you go over here, the common loot sheet. We've already talked about it on Discord. People have taken what they wanted. I think the only thing that really mattered was there was a spyglass here that Squirrel took because he wants people to see further when he's looking at climbing trees and scouting. And this cask of old whiskey, they found like an expensive old whiskey that they've kind of hidden a little bit. They basically just wrote, they saw the label, like it was in Elven, and only one of them, or like 1 or 2 of them, can actually read Elven. And they don't know anything about how the Elven calendar works, but they know how whiskey works. And they saw that one of the things was labeled whiskey, and it had a number on it that was like 80 less than all the other bottles they'd seen. So they understand that this is a very old Elven whiskey. So they turned the label towards the wall. But yes, and I think the manacles, they took one of them alive. They took this dockhand alive, so they'll question him. So there you go. That's some roleplay that's going to have to happen. We're not going to do that on Discord. We're going to do it live. So they're going to question this dockhand and ask some questions, presumably about the town, what's going on. And I don't know how long that's going to take. I don't know what they're interested in getting out of him, how fun the roleplay will be. Maybe they mess around with him a bit. But yeah, that's something I have to factor in, because we run 3-hour sessions. We run from 9 p.m. to midnight. So planning that in, and maybe the other role playing that's going to happen along the way, maybe we have to cut out one of them. Maybe we can't do the forest clearing fight like we were talking about. So that's fine. Again, as long as you can reuse the map, reuse sometimes the NPCs, it's not a waste, as long as you can fit it in somewhere else. But yeah, they're probably going to question him. They're probably going to talk amongst themselves. And then Apilius is going to be pushing them to move. So that they've taken the port. They're not damaged very much. I guess Squirrel's a little hurt, so maybe they try to patch him up. I don't know if they're going to use a spell or if they're going to use. There's some healing potions around, and there are. I think Puck can do some healing. And if anybody else comes, does Karen have medicine? Nope. Does Hemo have medicine if he decides to come? So I keep going to the wrong one. Skills. Nope. No one is investing. Fumbar probably does, right? This is again. I think it's the. Yeah, he's only 3, but he is trained. So yeah, so not a lot of people have medicine to do the treat wounds action. But depending on who comes, they might be able to patch some people up before they go. Apilius is going to be pushing them to move on. So basically they attack the port, they've sacked it. There was no warning raised because of the genius actions of the bard. And that's pretty much that. Apilius is gonna say, you know, we've got the element of surprise. We don't want them to stumble down here and find that, you know, this port has been taken. We don't want them to find all these dead elves, so we need to move fast. And during the narration of the first session, also, before the boat came here to the primary port, it's kind of stopped along the shores a little bit and dropped off other strike teams, which are kind of moving through the forest, and they're the ones that are going to move around and kind of surround the town with them. So they're already on the way to the town. So once this is secure and they're confident, they're going to leave some troops here and send the goblins, the party, and a bunch of other people to the town to meet up with the others and kind of attack from different angles. So he's going to be pushing them to leave. So they're going to do the questioning. Hopefully that doesn't take too long. Then they move forward. And like I said, they're going to the Watchtower first. I don't know if they're going to do any roleplay around that. Maybe some roleplay along the way. I don't know how they're going to interact with each other. We didn't have a whole lot of that last session. We had a lot of them talking to NPCs around each other. And I think Franco and G-Pain kind of had a little bit. Like, G-Pain was singing on the boat, and he was singing very well, and Franco appreciated that as a fellow artist. So they kind of bonded on that a little bit. So there might be some more role-playing along the way. So the Watchtower, the clearing, optionally, the Homestead. The Homestead might have some role-playing, depending on what they do with the farmers. So I'm going to play the farmers as fairly aggressive. Again, they see goblins coming to their homestead and they don't want them there, so they're going to have their torches and their pitchforks and try to run them off, thinking they're just kind of monstrous animal sort of things, and find out probably very violently that they are trained soldiers. So depending on how that goes, though, they might want to talk to them. So like once they fight the first one and these other ones start like cowering and trying to organize themselves, maybe they decide to talk to them. Maybe they try to make them to stand down. I don't know what their goals are, but there might be some talking here too. So yeah, like I said, I think maybe we skip the forest clearing. We feel it out, and again, we could always do the forest clearing third if you do the Watchtower, Homestead, and then if there's a lot of time, you can do the forest clearing before you head into Thaeth, where there's 3 fights. 1, 2, 3. I figured this fight with the guards is going to go really quickly. The Leshie one might take a bit longer. There's a bunch of them. There's like 3 Leshies and a Druid. So that might take a bit longer, which is good. And then this Elven Mage, again, if things are already taking too long, we could also write off this Mage. We don't have to have that here. But I kind of like the idea of having like an easy fight, a fairly hard one. This is like, wow, this is serious. And then an Elven Mage, which is it's above their level, but it's only just the Mage. Like there's no goons, there's no henchmen. So it is definitely, you know, an intriguing fight. But I think if they can close the distance, if they run over here, if they do something crazy and try to like jump across, I don't think they can jump across it, but if they try to push their way across the river and come up over here behind or something like that, we'll find out what the goblins are up to. I don't know. They're innovative if nothing else, and players will figure out a way. But yeah, it'll take them a couple turns to get up there while this Elven Mage is lobbing fireballs and zapping them with whatever spells. Let's see if the spell sheet works on this, because I remember it didn't work very well with the other one. So if I come over here and I go like, I'm going to search for spells, right? Like I said, I want to swap out some of their second level spells. So this is Arcane and level 2. So like I don't want Knock and See Invisibility, because that's not really, they're not turning invisible as far as I'm aware, the goblins. And Knock is a utility spell that you use in dungeons. I don't think that really matters. Blur. This is pretty good though. Yeah, so make a d20. So yeah, so basically it's like a 5 out of 20, so like a 1 in 4 chance to fail, to miss. That sounds like a useful ability. Yeah, so I'll take away see invisibility and I'll drag blur over and hoping it works. Didn't work again. That's the action though. This is interesting. So if I take the see invisibility away and I put the blur there. Yeah, oh, the blur shows up there. Okay, so it's not very interesting. So I'm not sure what I do to get the spell there because this is the action for it. I don't know how I get the actual spell to show up in the list. Okay, that's good enough there probably. If I go to spells, is it showing up now? It doesn't. That's frustrating. If I go to... Yeah, that is frustrating. I don't know why I can't get it to show up. Must be doing something wrong. Yeah, it shows up there in the preparation shortlist. How do I get spells known? Oh, I don't know. No, I don't want to do that. Don't want to do that. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm missing something simple here. Creates. No, I don't want to create spell. That's like a brand new spell. Yeah, so you don't want to do that. All right, I'll figure it out. But at least I know I can put it there. So that's blur. And what other spell would be useful? Again, just going full blasty about it. Flaming Sphere you already have. Final Sacrifice, is that like you blow up when you're done? No, it's a minion thing. Nope. Heat Metal is usually annoying. What up, Bijo? This is the session prep. So basically I'm planning how I'm going to murder all those goblins next time. How you doing? So yeah, right now I'm looking at a mage. I'll show you what else I had going on. But right now I'm looking at a mage. I'm thinking I'll take heat metal. So I'm gonna take knockout, and then I'm gonna drag heat metal over here. I don't know why it's not showing up in the list of spells. Oh, it's not even now. This one's not showing up here. So yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the drag drop spells compendium. It doesn't seem to be playing nice with me. I don't know what I did wrong here, but usually just drag it over like that and it works. Oh, it's there. Okay, it showed up as an action now, but again, it's not showing up as a spell slot. So it's okay. I'll figure that out. But yeah, so here's the gimmick, Bijo. Real quick, I'll just go through it. So they did the raid. You watched that episode, that session. So they're done there. They're gonna question this poor elf dock hand that survived. Oh yeah, are you? So you run games, Bijo? You picked up Foundry? Yeah, yeah. I like Foundry a lot. I used Sync RPG or Map Tool for a long time. I never really got into Roll20 because I guess I was so in deep with Map Tool that I kind of just stuck with it for a while, and I jumped right to Foundry, and it's astounding. Like I said, the compendiums they have, so they have game systems for pretty much anything you want to play. Pathfinder 1 and 2 are what I usually play, but like you can search the bestiary. You can, if you want to look for Drow, for example, like they have them here and they're fully statted. Like you look at this Drow priestess, and you can just drag this in and start playing. You give it some token art, and you use Tabletop Simulator. Yes, Foundry is amazing, Hero Shade. That is true. Tabletop Simulator is kind of fun though. You do use like 3D models and stuff, Bijo. Uh, yeah, I've seen people use Tabletop Simulator and they actually have like 3D dice. Oh, you cut and paste 2D stuff in Tabletop Simulator? Interesting. Okay. I've seen people use it. I might be thinking of different things. Is it Tabletop Simulator versus what's the other thing? What's the thing I play about the other board games in? I forget. I don't have Steam up in the check. Anyway, yeah. I'm not sure I even know what Tabletop Simulator is then. I think I might be using something different in my brain. Let me see. I was using. No, it is Tabletop Simulator. Yeah. So I play Dune and stuff in that. I play a lot of board games with my friends on that. It's not good. They don't have a lot of the rules built in, right? It's mostly just moving minis around the map and stuff. But yeah, I definitely love Foundry. It's fantastic. It's amazing. It's so much sleeker than Map Tool does. You think that Map Tool is really powerful, and the macro language is really nice. And again, I just got into it. I kind of got entwined to it. I was working with Sync RPG and getting basically what the bestiary has here now. Like, you know, having the stat blocks just drag droppable in. That's kind of what I was doing with Map Tool and Sync RPG, and it's so much sleeker and built in and so pretty, and works so well. The people who put all the effort into the systems here for Foundry are amazing. But yeah, so you can go ahead and do stuff like that. And they have all the equipment, the items. One thing I was showing off earlier, I'll just show you off real quick, is the kind of the loot sheet here. So basically I made a party common loot actor over here, and it has inside of it basically everything the characters loot. So I'll show you kind of how it works. So I take this dockhand and I go to edit, and I drag this, I'll drag like just this one fishing tackle off, for example. So now it moved away from the loot sheet onto the guy. And the easy way is you can drag it back and it goes to the central loot sheet. Or if I click on this guy and I click on loot selected tokens, it sucks everything in his sheet over. So basically when you're done with a fight, you just select all the enemies, you mash that button, and it all gets sucked into this common loot sheet here. And then the players have access to this. So the players can go, oh, I want that fishing tackle, and they can drag that onto their player sheet. And we kind of handle that a little bit. If it's important and we're moving, it can be live if someone needs like some weapon somebody wants, for example. But for the most part, people just kind of hand wave it when we go back to Discord and say at the end, like, oh, I wanted that spyglass, and it didn't really matter for the session, but I'm taking it. But yeah, this common loot thing is really awesome. I'm really stoked about it, and because tracking loot has been the bane of my existence in my other campaigns, like the Pathfinder one I'm playing through Hell's Vengeance that you've been watching for a while, Bijo, and like I put Shirag Dern in charge of the loot, and he's got a spreadsheet in like Google Drive, and it hasn't been updated in months, and it's just, yeah. So there's like a pile of money. There's tens, if not hundreds of thousands of gold unaccounted for. And I'm hoping that this works much better. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's fantastic. And again, it's really awesome. So yeah, just kind of catching up to the campaign. They did this coastal raid. They took a dockhand alive. They are going to question him and then head over to the town of Thaeth, which is this small 200-person elf village next to this port. And I was kind of going over the encounters along the way. So I've gone over it once or twice already, kind of sizing things up, but I'll just quickly go through them. The first one that they might bump into is this Watchtower, which Squirrel, the ranger, already spotted. He climbed one of the trees, and he looked around and found a Watchtower in the distance. So the party's going to have the option to basically completely go around it, go far enough away that they don't barely even need to make a stealth check, or they can decide to deal with it, because it's obviously manned, or presumably manned. And the goal here for the mission for the party and all the other NPCs that came with them is to take this town, and yeah, you think they're gonna go? You think they're gonna go for it? Yeah, I kind of agree. So I'm gonna try to coax them that way, but I don't want to force them. So maybe they'll be afraid. Maybe they just want to move around. But at the end of the day, you have to kill the guards. You have to, anybody who's going to be opposing you, you're gonna have to deal with. So I feel like they're probably gonna want to go and fight the guards of the tower here. So I got two guys up here. They're elves. They've got longbows. They got clubs and saps. So that they're guards. They're not like soldiers. So they're not like exceptional fighters. But again, they're elves with bows, which is annoying enough. And they're in an elevated position. I also have hitting down here this elf hunter, which is kind of I think I ripped off a drow fighter and I kind of changed it a little bit and I made it weak, so it's like a level 0, which is a kind of weak fighter. It also has a bow. This one's a short bow and a long bow, but it has two weapons. It kind of fights with a rapier and a dagger sort of thing, and has all these cool abilities they can do with it. They have quick draw, which basically they can draw and attack at the same time. So they can be using the bow and kind of just drop it and then really quickly stab. They have attack of opportunity, which not everybody gets. Yeah, if you're right, if first level bows can be really bad if they're far enough away. They're not composite or anything like that, so if you look at the damage on it, it's a 1d8 flat. So I mean, they might get lucky. You could crit with a bow. Bad things happen when you crit. But yeah, a bow in an elevated position is bad. But if they do decide to come here, I figure they're going to move stealthily through the brush. And in the first session, they managed to, again, I was explaining earlier, there was this bell, like this warning bell at the dock, and they managed through an illusion by the bard, by G. Payne the bard, to make it so the bell was never rung. So essentially, there's no warning, and the people at this watchtower, they're not going to be on high guard. So they're there, and it's their job to watch things, but nothing has happened here in so long. The elves have become kind of complacent, and they're not going to be, they'll take a penalty to their perception checks. So if the goblins are at all stealthy coming through the forest, they'll probably get up on the tower. Oh, you just started a second edition game? That's nice. Are you GMing, or I think I'm not sure. I think you GM, or do you play? Oh, okay. So you're in two games. You play Friday and you DM on Wednesdays and Saturdays. You DM and playing. Wow, that's a really great schedule. So you get to play D&D, or you get to play Pathfinder 4 days a week. Oh, 4 games. Oh man, I was talking to some people. I was talking to Dern and Shirag and Chris, Dern and Vors from their game. We were thinking about inviting you to our game at some point because we want to do like a Westmarches kind of thing where people show up and come and go. But you're already in 4 games. I don't know if you could fit us in. Oh man, that's in. So you play 2 games and you DM 2 games. That's insane. And do you work from home now because of COVID, or do you have to go in? You're a teacher. You teach from home. Okay. Yeah, I think you're California. Are they all like fully locked down, or is it? I guess yeah. I don't want to make this COVID chat. I figure it varies by county, but I don't know. Yeah. So mid May maybe. Okay, we'll see. It's almost the end of the school year. Oh, mid March. All right. So yeah, getting back to it. Yeah, so there's these guards in the tower. I figured the goblins will sneak up, and there's also this elf hunter I have here, kind of weak, but he can fight in melee a little bit. So the gimmick will be the tower will be engaged, and I think these guys, they have whistles. The town guards actually have whistle items. If I go to edit NPC, like they have signal whistles. So maybe they'll blow those. One of them will blow a whistle and kind of get the attention of this hunter who'll be nearby, but not like right where he is. He'll basically be over here or further in the forest, take a turn or two to show up and help jump them, basically help deal with the goblins as like a little surprise. But again, this fight isn't supposed to be big. It's supposed to be kind of just cutting their teeth in the way of Pathfinder 2 fights again. So they hit the Watchtower, and then I have this forest clearing fight I was talking about, where I have over here, like, I have another elf hunter and 3 of these guard dogs. And basically this is going to be a fight where the dogs have these pack abilities and the ability to trip stuff. So, if they're going to be walking this way, kind of moving around like that, and the party will stumble upon them, or they'll be stumbled upon depending on perception versus stealth over here. The party will be coming from over here, and one of them will see the other first, and then there'll be a fight. And so there's the regular stand-up fight where the dogs are fighting, but there's also the fact that the elf hunter can run over here, kind of behind this trap, and kind of help hopefully lure them in, is my gimmick. So I set up that trap, and it's basically a net that's going to fall down from the tree, and maybe immobilize one of them, kind of get them stuck and have to cut their way out. I also have a second hunter over here in the bush in case it's needed. But again, these are just kind of like small fights to get them ready. They're not really super threatening. Yeah, I like the dogs too. They're kind of weak. They're like -1. I didn't make them weak or anything, but they have a bite. These guys, they don't even have an actual trip. They have the pack attack. So if they're within 2 other allies, if they're within range of other dogs or the hunter, they do extra damage. Maybe I'd add a trip in, or maybe I would just have them make a athletics check instead. I can just make athletics to make a regular trip check on them. They're not bad at it. So they could be biting and they could be tearing them down and stuff like that. Yeah, pet wolf. I almost did a wolf with one of my other. There's a druid, and I decided to go with Leshies. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I agree. A wolf would be much more badass and much more challenging. But the gimmick here is that the hunter has this bow, and he's probably going to run behind here and draw one of the melee people in and maybe set off this trap. And then, again, if things are going really badly for the hunter, I can just throw this other one in to kind of amp up the difficulty a little bit. And if the goblins are having trouble, we can go ahead and just pretend the hunter was never there. So, Watchtower, forest clearing, and then I was sending them to this homestead here, where basically they're going to show up and there's going to be a bunch of farmers. They're going to start seeing, you know, there's like this rolling farmland at the other side of the forest. They're growing a lot of grains, and there's some wineries and stuff like that around. And they're just going to come upon these people harvesting grain, and the farmers are going to be aggressive. They're going to see goblins coming through their farmland and assume they're just like monsters from the mountains or whatever, and try to run them off with fire and pitchforks. And they're not aware that they're, you know, goblin commandos, basically. So they're going to have to deal with that. And I figure that, yeah, yes, exactly. Pitchforks and torches trying to chase off the goblins. Like, get out of here, you goblins. And then, you know, even the barbarian bites off the guy's arm or something. And it's going to be on. So, yeah, so I want to see how the players interact with this. I do expect a little bit of role play here, because these are farmers. They're not warriors. They're not like... They are defending their property, and so they're probably just going to be fought and killed. But I'm curious if anybody has like a second thought about murdering a bunch of farmers along the way to the city they're about to conquer. I did try hard in the first session to kind of stress the fact, yeah, elven farmers, exactly, right? Because again, the elves own their own empire. They're all xenophobic, whatever, elf supremacists, whatever you want to call them. So like they don't have, like they're not in a society where there are humans farming for them or whatever it is. They're elven farmers. And yeah, so they're going to come through here and deal with the elven farmers on the way to the city of Thaeth, the town of Thaeth. So yeah, so there's that fight. There's the Watchtower, the forest clearing. If I feel like there's time, I'll throw that one in. The homestead I really want to do because I want to see how they react to kind of like, you know, civilians. These are elven civilians. What does the party decide to do when they're faced with aggressive elven civilians? Couple of them do speak Elven. I don't know if all, like, not many of them do. I think G-Pain does, and Squirrel does somehow. I don't know. His backstory didn't explain it, but apparently he has an intelligence high enough to learn languages, and he wanted to do Elven, so I just kind of roll with it. But they could talk their way out of it. We'll see how that goes. In any event, though, once they finish that, they get to the town of Thaeth, and this is the whole big town. It's made by Iconic Maps. And I'm not going to go over all the letters. I already did that. But long story short, by the time the party reaches the town, all of the NPCs they had, like, they dropped off different groups of like there's dwarves and gnomes and orcs and stuff like that. They dropped them all off along the way, and they're kind of working their way through the forest to kind of meet up here at the city, the town. I keep saying city. It's a very small town of less than 200 people. And the gimmick here is that the party's going to come in from up here, from the, you know, the top, the northeast. And they're going to fight some guards here, and there's some other fights going on over here. And they just like thematically describe what's going on everywhere else. Like there's going to be other people coming in over here. There's going to be people coming out of the forest over here. And basically all of the allies of the party are going to be kind of taking the city from different sides. And once the party has done 2 or 3 fights, depending on how long things are taking and how much time is left in the night, the fight will be over. Like the hopefully, unless things go sideways, they and their allies have won. So the first fight is 2 guards, and that's pretty much exactly what was in the guard tower. They're the same exact kind of troops. So I don't expect, and again, this should be an easy fight. It's something they're very familiar with. It's very straightforward, and they have no defensive advantage here. They're just basically going to come out once they hear like some rabble. They're going to come out of this little guard post and engage. While that's happening, or maybe after it's happening, I'm going to draw their attention to this giant tree. It's like a sacred oak for the elves. It grows good berries, and there's going to be a druid down here. I can zoom in a little closer here, and I can make them visible. It would help too, because when they're invisible, they turn translucent. There's basically a druid here with some cool druid spells, and 3 leaf leshies, which I'm going to have kind of camouflage / transformed into like parts of the tree, hanging up high on the tree. So once the party's dealing with this, or maybe in the middle or when it's over, I'm going to have people screaming down here. Basically, some of their allies will be coming down here to deal with the tree, and then they get entangled or somehow hurt. But But basically, I want to, while they're here, I want to say, this is the next fight. I want to draw their attention here and say, this is where you should go next. Obviously, leave it a little open for them to move if they want, but kind of say, hey, your allies are having problems down here. Some of the NPCs you know and love are screaming down here that they're getting trapped. The branches are reaching them. And yeah, so the Druid will engage, do the cool entangle stuff and whatever else, whatever spells he's got. He's got barks and he's got fear. So yeah, so he's going to be like entangling and scaring and then fighting the people down here. And these Leshies are kind of hiding in the tree, and they have this cool ability in Pathfinder 2. I really love, I've said this like 3 times now in the stream, that in Pathfinder 2, all of the monsters and NPCs get like a unique action, or a couple of unique actions. So it's not just like, oh, hey, I'm this strong, I have these feats, this is how I fight. It's like, I'm a leaf Leshie, and I can change shape, which lets you turn into like a tree, basically. And I can glide, which is kind of like, I can't fly, but I can like hover slowly down, and you can kind of dive bomb people, basically. So I'm going to have them up in the tree, and while they're fighting the Druid, these Leshies are going to kind of just glide down on them. And I think that's really cool. And you can kind of surround them and stuff like that. And the other cool thing that the Leshies have is this verdant burst. So when they die, they just burst, and 30 feet around them, like plant-like creatures get healed. So I'm going to have them kind of glide down around one guy, like whoever's closest to the tree at the beginning. They're gonna glide down around him, like flank and fight, and then they're eventually gonna stab one. It's gonna pop and heal the other ones, and I like the imagery of that and how frustrating that might be. And based on my calculations, it's a level 2 and 3 level 0s. I think that should be I think that ends up being a severe fight. Let's open it. I have this. I'm smart. So level 2 is party level +1, so that's 60, and it's 3 level 0s, which is party level -1. So it's 60 and then 120 and 150, which is, yeah, it's the top end of severe. It's not extreme, but it's close. And if we have 5 people, it's way under, so it's fine. So this would be like a decent fight, but not like a terrifying fight. So yeah, so there's that fight, and then if there's still time, I'm going to basically throw this Elven Mage. So this is when you came in. I was standing up this Elven Mage. So this exists. I think I took the Mage for Hire NPC from the Codex. And yeah, Mage for Hire. And I was kind of just changing it a little bit. I was taking away some of its utility spells and giving blasty spells. And I was having a problem with the VTT. Wasn't adding it to my spell list. It was adding to my preparation short list, but not the spell list. So I must be doing something wrong. I'll figure that out, though. What does that do? I don't know what this does. Click to toggle my spellbook. I don't know. I'll play around with that. But yeah, so that's the thing. I'm hoping that's enough. That should be more than enough fights. That's potentially 5 or 6 fights, depending on how fast things are going. And yeah, that's the next session. That's kind of what I was playing with. I also went over a bunch of stuff about. I have like most of the 3rd session planned out too. I was gonna think that I didn't want to repeat myself, but I'm not sure what else I want to do today. So, I don't know. So you're playing 4 games though. This is astounding to me. Yeah. You think that's too much? Again, I'm new to Pathfinder 2, and I feel like things went faster last time. But you think it's gonna take 2 sessions to play those out? Because again, there's gonna be some chatting here, so this is gonna take like a half hour at least, right? Talking, questioning this guy, getting it. Then they get out. There's the Watchtower. Yeah, fighting does take time. Agreed. I think I underestimate stuff in my head. That's been a consistent thing, at least in my other campaign for the Pathfinder 1 thing. Especially we're at 12th level now, and when you have that much stuff going on, it's like, there's so many things to track and so many abilities and stuff like that. The fights usually end really quick in terms of rounds, but they typically take a lot of time to adjudicate those rounds. But yeah, so like I said, I might, this forest clearing one, I could kind of just write it off. If I feel like things are going slower, I could just skip this and go straight from the Watchtower to the Homestead, and then end up at Thaeth. The only thing is I really don't want to end up in Thaeth and have it not be over at the end of the session. So I either have to end before Thaeth and basically make the 3rd session taking Thaeth, or I have to make it so that we move through enough encounters that they can start and finish the actual fight. I don't want to have like in between sessions, based on the way we're doing it with the Westmarches jam style, where people can come and go. I don't want to have like we're in the middle of fighting in the town and then we change who shows up that day. So yeah, I could also take this wizard and just again ignore the wizard. Basically make them fight the guards and the druid, and then say, okay, you're done. But yeah, we'll figure it out. Your campaign is 17th level. Yeah. Is that the one you're GMing? You're GMing one of those 17 level campaigns? I think the highest I ever got was 16th level, I think. I played in Rise of the Rune Lords, and I played in Legacy of Fire. And I think 16th was the highest. I think I had a 16th level monk. Encounters up to city one day. City, yeah, it's possible. I'll feel it out, and I feel like between like with the forest clearing and stuff like that, as that an optional kind of encounter, I think I could definitely I can get up to the city and I can stretch it basically. I guess I'll have to feel it out. I'm still definitely I'm learning and my players are learning. But yeah. Savage Tide from I'm not familiar with that. Updated to Pathfinder. Interesting. And you're 17 and your players are 17th level in. How long have you been playing that one? Or did you start at a decent level? Three years, yeah. That's better than us. Again, we've been playing Hell's Vengeance for 4 years. We're about to finish the 4th book. And I think they hit 13th if they finish it. If they survive. I say that like they're not going to just brutalize the last encounters. Nothing has even slowed them down, let alone stopped them. I think the only thing that really challenged them was when I jumped them with all their cousins, whatever, that fight that I had where basically Vors' cousins came in, and it was a party designed to kill them. Basically, I created a bunch of NPCs that were specifically designed to give them problems. And back in the last chapter, they fought a barb devil. I forgot what level they were at the time, maybe 8th or 9th. And they fought a barb devil, and the ranger actually died, or the slayer Vors actually did die, and they used like 4 hero points to save his life because Vors himself didn't have any. But yeah, so again, just like you're saying, they wreck everything in like 1 or 2 rounds. It's pretty brutal. I've in that campaign I've had to start using more creatures because they just burn down one really fast, or they cast enough spells. And that's kind of my design mantra with the Leshies was I didn't want to have like just one really powerful druid there. I want to have a druid and a bunch of Leshies to distract them. Basically just throw a bunch of lower level things at them so they have to deal with them somehow. I don't think we have a lot of area spells in the group yet. We have a couple, but they're not just going to blast all the Leshies at once. Man. 17th level, that's crazy. It's really high. Again, I think I got to 16th level on a monk. There's some crazy stuff going on. And yeah, I played a wizard. I played like a Theurge in Legacy of Fire. And I don't remember what level I got up to. It was up there though. It's gotta be like 15 or 16. Yeah, there was also that fight, you're right. In that other campaign we had the Hell Knight use an ability to make everybody run away except for the anti-paladin. So it was kind of like a one-on-one fight. And that was pretty close. That was scary. But yeah, it's been a good campaign. We'll see where it goes. But I'm glad to be starting up this new one too. I'm excited to get this going, and I'm involving more of my friends too, and friends of friends and stuff like that. That's why we're doing the Westmarches style. I think we have 8 people made characters. Go to the start screen. You can see we haven't, like, Karen, Hemo, Fumbar, and Even haven't played yet. Or no, Even has played. Yeah. So there's 8 characters have been created so far. 5 of them have played. And I'm trying to make it so that the players that didn't come last time get first crack at like reserving a spot in the next session. Because again, I earlier in the stream I said I don't want to play with more than 5. I don't have a really good feeling for Pathfinder 2 in terms of how much scaling matters and how long combat takes with more people. But in Pathfinder 1, I have the Hell's Vengeance is 5 people. I can't imagine adding more people to that. It takes so long to get through a turn as it is. I can't imagine adding more people just in terms of balancing things and also just getting through the turns is insane to me. So yeah, so again, I'm trying to keep it open so that there's 5 slots every time we play, and the people who didn't play last time have first crack at it. So no one has reserved a slot yet, as far as I'm aware, though. So I'm gonna poke people, because again, we play next Saturday, a week from today. So I'll poke some people and see who's going to come. But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. That's I went over, if you watch the recording, Bijo, I went over kind of my overall goal for the campaign. I have this session planned out. This one, like I said, might actually be 2, depending on how fast they go. And then I have the subsequent session planned out too. I have like there's this forest chase. I won't go into it. If you watch the recording again, I kind of go into it a bunch. There's like a chase scene. There is an encounter where it's kind of it's severe or extreme level where like this should actually, it should, I say, but we will see how my min-max friends do. But it should actually challenge them. So I want to kind of play up the fact that like once they're occupying the city, there are these guerrillas out there and they're winning. Like the guerrillas are murdering people, and then have this fight where it's very close, where it's dangerous, and they feel that the sense of danger. And then after that, they go to a water temple where the chase scene happens, and they chase the guerrilla leader to a water temple. And then once they're there, I'm stammering. Once they're at the water temple, the guerrilla leader basically asks for sanctuary. He runs in here and asks the clerics for sanctuary. They agree, and this temple of Gozreh is harboring him. And the goblins. When is the chase scene? The chase scene is after they take Thaeth. So again, like we said, it's either 1 or 2 sessions between now and when they have Thaeth in their control. After that, I'm going to narrate a scene where basically I explain like a week or 2 have passed. You've held the town, but there are these elven guerrillas kind of raiding the town, and then also like when you venture out into the forest to go to find them, people are dying. Like the NPCs that came with them are dying. Like the dwarf that even likes, or I'll pick a bunch of NPCs that they've talked to. And I want to impress this danger narratively at the beginning of session 3 or 4, whatever it is. And then once they do that, they have this fight in the forest canopy where it's close. They engage some guerrillas. They see that this is really dangerous. It's not just I'm not just making it up. And then once they defeat this, they'll probably take one alive and get a tip on where the guerrilla leader is. And then that'll trigger the forest chase scene. And again, I'm not going to go into it, but there's a bunch of artwork and like it's a skill-based chase scene where they need to make like athletics checks at different points, or perception and survival checks to advance on this. And kind of keep up with the elf guerrillas to see how far they get. But at the end, the elf guerrillas will make it to the end, and they will run into the water temple we talked about. And they will plead for sanctuary. They will basically say, the Gozreh is protecting us. And I'm hoping between all of the goading, like the elves are your enemy, Opilius shouting at them, and impressing upon them through the narrative and through that one fight that these guerrillas are dangerous and killing your friends, and like they are a resistance that needs to be dealt with. I'm hoping that they basically burst into this temple and start messing people up. And that's kind of the impetus for the overall idea of the main campaign, which is kind of like Westmarches meets the Odyssey, where they do this. They're gonna fight. There's like a Triton in here. It's hard to see. There's a Triton. There's an elf priestess. The elf guerrilla leader is up here on the thing. But they're gonna come in here. They're gonna like defile this temple. Yeah, they will fight the temple. I'm pretty sure too. Yeah. So, but again, I'm goading them into it. Like, you got to come in here, and they're gonna knock on the door, and there are these like acolytes at the door that are gonna like say, no, you're not allowed in here. This is a sacred space. And if they ask about the leader, they'll say no, he's requested sanctuary. And there's no, I don't think they're going to not go. But again, players will mess up your whole story if you let them. But I think they're going to burst down the door and start slaughtering acolytes. And then, once they enter the door, even if they don't kill the acolytes, there are no religious characters. No, there is an oracle. Puck is, Chris is playing Puck the oracle. He's not religious. He's a cosmos oracle who believes he can read hair like tea leaves. So no religious characters. No. There's a champion, right? Oh, I guess, what's his name? Karen. She is a girl, a female orc. She is a champion, and they're kind of like the paladins in Pathfinder too, but she's a desecrator or whatever it is. She's like the neutral evil paladin. And I forgot what god we picked. I'm not sure we wrote it down. It's one of the goblin gods from Pathfinder 1. I forget. Like I assume it's in Pathfinder 2 as well, but we found it on the SRD whatever for Pathfinder 1. I forget. It's one of the Barghest gods or whatever it is. It's like one of the goblin mini demigods. But yeah, so no one religious. No one's gonna be like into Gozreh, as far as I'm aware. I'm not even sure if anybody has like knowledge religion. I guess Karen should, right? Because she's yeah, she has it. So they might understand what's happening. They might know what's going on. But the idea is that like, hey, they're going into this water temple, and they're harboring the guy we need to kill. We need to kill his guerrilla leader. So they're gonna come in, and even by virtue of entering, even if they spare the acolytes at the door, just by virtue of entering here, they've defiled the sacred space. So this elf priestess and this Triton, which is kind of like a favored servant of Gozreh, are going to be pissed off and trying to. They're not going to let them take the ranger away. So they're going to engage them, and they have like water magic, and they can be summoning allies and stuff like that. There's going to be a fight. They're probably going to kill the priestess and or the Triton, and that's going to piss off Gozreh. And long story short, after some other time, they're going to be, once they finish this, they kill the guerrilla leader. There's not going to be any more for the hover stat card. I think it's called alt token tip or token tip alts. Let me see. RST token tooltip alt, and you have to configure it. It does take some. Yeah, how you doing? Doom solo. Yeah, so it's token tooltip alt, and you got to configure it a little bit. If you ask around, some people will give you the config. Like if I come here and just real quick, jump to module settings, token tooltip alt. Where is it? You gotta like set this up where you have like, for NPCs, you set all this up. But you can import and export this as JSON. So if you ask around, like people will give it to you, or I can give it to you if you really want it. Basically, you can like export this, and they give you a big thing. You just paste this in. If somebody's gone through the trouble of configuring it for you, you don't have to do it. And that's what I did. Someone in the Pathfinder 2 space gave me that on the Foundry Discord. But yeah, if you hover over somebody, you can see it, and if I hold Alt, it shows everybody, which is actually a little annoying because it's big enough that it covers too much. If things are like right next to each other, like you can't see the second one. So it is what it is. But again, it's very useful, especially when you're making a spell or trying something athletics checks. If you're looking for like their fort ref will DCs and stuff like that, and their passive perception and stealth, it's really useful. But yeah, I like it more than just clicking through to sheets and stuff like that. So yeah, so the gimmick here is that hopefully these guys come in, they burst down the door, they just desecrate the temple, they murder the priestess, they piss off Gozreh, and then they go about their business. They go back to the town, and there's no more uprising, there's no more guerrillas. They spend another week or two there, and then like the main army and the colonists from the human empire the king was organizing come. So again, these goblins and the other people that are with them, they're like the strike team. They came out immediately. They went there, and the king has spent like the next month or so kind of rallying his stuff, getting things ready. And then once this port is taken and controlled, they'll come in and actually occupy it properly. And this strike team will go on to meet with another army taking another major port. So this was kind of like, a small trial run of the whole thing, and then this crack team of goblin commandos and their leader will go on to the next thing. Except for the fact they pissed off Gozreh. So again, as you said, Vijo, I'm pretty sure they're going to come in here. They're going to knock down the temple door. They're probably going to slaughter a bunch of acolytes and priests. They're going to piss off Gozreh, and then they're going to get sent into. Basically, they're going to get back on their boat to sail to the next port that they think, and Gozreh's going to go nope, and just like straight up Odyssey shit. They're gonna just take him and knock him into this big storm, like an archipelago inside this big storm, and it's gonna be just like the Odyssey when they killed Polyphemus. It's like you're supposed to have this 1 week trip, boom, you're knocked way off course, and you've got to deal with all this random stuff. And that's pretty much where it's going. It's gonna be like an Odyssey meets the Westmarches game, where there's a lot of stuff going on in this archipelago, and there's a lot of like crazy islands. Like you go there, this is Calypso's island, I'm gonna rip off a bunch of Odyssey stuff and also just make my own stuff. Like this is this island, there's a crazy gnome on this island or whatever it is. But I kind of want it to be like fantastical, like like the world outside this storm, the world outside this archipelago is normal. And like obviously there's elves and stuff in that there, so it's not normal, it's a fantasy world. But I want like all the really weird stuff. Like sirens don't exist out there, they exist here, and there's stories out there that people have heard about and sailors talk about, because maybe a couple have gotten out of the archipelago over time, but like they're common here. This is like where they come from. So we're definitely going to touch on a bunch of like, you know, tropes and just rip off the Odyssey whenever I can, but also build, you know, yes, the boat is the base of operations. The gimmick that I'm going to have is at the coastal raid they had this big boat that was like 60 people, right? This brigantine class boat, and that's how they brought, you know, all of the NPCs with them. And when Gozreh flicks them away, I'm going to have them basically move through this storm, and I'm going to have some kind of encounter or something going on where basically this ship is going to be torn to pieces and they're going to wash up on an island. And they're going to have to get their own boat. I'm going to figure out how to make that happen. I'm going to figure out how I can goad them into basically realizing they have to build their own boat or steal a small boat or something like that. And then they'll have a much smaller boat and there'll be much fewer people. Like I'm planning to not let a lot of the NPCs survive. I haven't decided that. But basically I want them to have like they get shipwrecked on an island. I'm thinking I just go straight up with like Calypso's island. Is Calypso the one that turns people into pigs? I think so. I want to do that one first. I forget. I gotta read the Odyssey again. If I'm gonna do this right, I really gotta read the Odyssey again. But yeah, so I want to touch on a bunch of the highlights and about, you know, I already kind of used the idea of you pissed off Gozreh. That's the Polyphemus story, but I didn't actually have a Polyphemus. I don't have a Cyclops that they blind. But I do like that story where like there's a giant that has sheep and he has a cave and they find the cave and there's all this like cheese and sheep and they're hungry because, you know, you're starving. You're lost at sea. And then, you know, the giant closes the door and you have to kill the giant in the dark. So yeah, so again, I'm definitely gonna hit the highness. I'm gonna milk the Odyssey for all it's worth, and then throw in, you know, my own creations and stuff like that. So, but the boat is gonna be the base of operations, and every session, every time people show up, there's basically gonna be like, so what do you want to do? And hopefully we discussed it on Discord prior, so I have some prep time. But basically we decide like, okay, so you four have decided to play this week. You know about this, this, and this. The last session you heard about like this person's over on this island somewhere to the northwest. And maybe that's true, maybe that's not. Maybe that was a rumor, it's not real. So yeah, so they decide what they want to do, they go do it, and whatever happens, happens. Yes, I hit very hard on the sailing lore or whatever it is. I think that works for profession in Pathfinder 2 as well now. Right, so I know like Franco, for example, if I go to skills over here, skills to pay the bills, he has sailing lore and warfare lore. So I'm pretty sure that's like, there's no profession in this one anymore, right? It's just, you know, you have the lore skill and that's how you can make money off it. So yeah, so that's that. And also I think G Payne, Gerhardt over here, also has sailing lore. So I definitely did hint at that like hard. I was like, there's gonna be boats. And at least two of them have said, okay, fine, I could be a sailor. So yeah, that's gonna be a thing. And additionally, something that once we get into that part of it, once we get into the kind of open-endedness and once we get into the actual Westmarches style stuff, I also want to get the audience involved. I want to have like things like, you know, polls and stuff like that. So basically they're heading in this direction, they want to go to this island. Should they get there or should they be blasted off to somewhere else? And like basically the viewers, the live viewers can kind of contribute to, do they get where they want, or does Gozreh blow them off some other direction? And then kind of I can have a little poll like, which would you rather them do, the thing they're going to, or do you want them to get blasted towards the sirens, or do you want them to get blasted towards Charybdis, or what do you want? And maybe things like that. I was also thinking that people could give boons, or it's the opposite of boon, curses to players, so you can give a hero point or like an anti-hero point to players or stuff like that live. I thought that'd be really cool. Again, this is the first game I've streamed. I record the other game. If you hop onto my YouTube, same name, Jay Mosky, you can see the long-running 4 years I've played the Hell's Vengeance in the first one, but it's never been live. So I really want to get the audience involved. I really want to try to figure out cool things to do with that. Polls are the obvious one, but also I think just there's a lot of potential there, especially if like if you know, if you theme it like you're kind of like your demigods or you're like outsiders interacting with the people somehow. You're the fates playing with the winds and stuff like that. So I haven't codified all that, but I've started thinking about it. I've started writing some stuff down, and I'm hoping to kind of get people involved and interactive. And I think that's a good hook for getting people to actually show up and watch the game every couple of weeks. But yeah, so I built this first story, these first 3 or 4 sessions, to kind of make them do the thing at the water temple. Like, when I first envisioned this thing, I was all about the Odyssey. Like, I decided way in the beginning this is going to be an Odyssey campaign. And I thought maybe I'll just throw them in. Maybe I'll just say, you are all on a boat, you got blown into the storm, we're doing the Odyssey. And I felt like that's kind of was cheating them out of the screwing themselves over, I guess. Like, I want them to come here. I want them to defile the temple. I want them to kill the priests. I want them to piss off Gozreh so they understand what it means when they get on the boat and get flicked into this permanent storm where all the horrible sirens and things live. I want them to feel somewhat responsible for that. Yeah, so I'm having a lot of fun with this. It's definitely been interesting. And again, they're all goblins. I mentioned this in the beginning of the stream. I've seen some other people have joined since then. So when we started the campaign, I set the tone. I tried to make a serious campaign. All my campaigns have kind of been half funny. I guess it's just the way my friends and I are. We're kind of funny. We like the crunch of Pathfinder, or at least Pathfinder 1. So we like the crunch. We like to play jokes, and we do some role playing, but we're not full time all in character and anything like that. We make a lot of out of character jokes at the table. But when I set the scene for this, I tried to make it serious in the Discord when I was explaining it to my friends, and Jeff made a goblin swashbuckler as his first character, and he wrote this backstory. It was really good. It's really nice. I'm gonna put it on. I'm gonna make a website for the campaign at some point. But basically, he wrote this whole backstory about how he wants to be a performer, but he's a goblin, so he always gets laughed at instead of he can't get dramatic roles and stuff like that. But he wrote it really well. But at the end of the day, he still has this, like, if I look at his sheet, he's got this. Where's that attacks? His gauntlet. He named it Roggin. He basically has like a leather gauntlet that he's put eyes on, and he's a braggart who uses his ability, like his actual swashbuckler abilities, braggart style. He intimidates people. And he, in doing something, he gets panache. So he's constantly doing it. He constantly wants to be intimidating people and then fighting those people. So instead of, like, scowling at them or shouting, he intimidates them by, like, singing rhyming songs with his hand puppet. So immediately all seriousness was out the window. Once this backstory came out, all seriousness was out the window. And Chirag wanted to play a bard. He's like, I could play goblin bard. We can sing hilarious songs together. And once that happened, once that second domino fell and there were 2 goblins in the party, everybody just kind of ran with it. They said, well, if you're making a goblin, then I'm making a goblin. And once there were 3, it's like, so we're all goblins, right? And now we've got a party of goblins going on a journey, and Goblin Odyssey is happening. It's going to be the Goblin Odyssey, and it's going to be great. We've got like 5 more minutes in this stream. Oh, yeah. So Chirag likes bards, and it's kind of an inside joke, or I guess outside joke if you watch the games, that Nas hates bards. Nas is of the opinion that if you have a bard in your party, you're going to have a TPK like immediately. He believes that they just bring about TPKs. He hates them. I don't think he's ever played one. I don't know why he hates them so much. But he sees them kind of like the jack of all trades, master of none. But Chirag likes them, and Chirag is DMing his own game, and he has a 2E game, and he has a guy who's playing in there who is a bard, and he likes what he sees there, so he wants to do it. But he did play in that Halloween one shot we ran. He played a bard. He played the iconic Lem or whatever his name was. He took the 3rd level version of that or whatever. And the problem there was we did like a Halloween adventure that was very undead heavy, and the iconic bard has a lot of illusion spells that do not work very well on undead. So he had a really rough time, and that was me just not thinking ahead enough, I guess. I should have dissuaded him from doing that. But yeah, that went bad for him. But I think he's pretty happy with this bard so far. He's done some good stuff. He's done the bard song, Inspire Courage, works really well. It helps out a lot. It's definitely made the difference on more than one attack in terms of getting the hit or getting a crit. And during the raid, like I said, they were unable to hit this bell to alarm the rest of the elves. And they did that because the bard made an illusion. He made a bunch of illusory boxes in front of it, and the guy failed his save. So even though he was like moving his hands and feeling around like there aren't any boxes here, they were still opaque to him. They still looked like boxes, and he could not find the bell. And by the time, you know, he was moving through things, he got murdered by the other goblins. So the bard saved the day, despite what Nas would have you believe. The bard saved the day. And now when they move forward to the Watchtower or whatever else, the elves there are not going to be alerted. And that's going to matter a bunch, so. Anybody else out there want to say anything? Again, I've got about 4 minutes before I'm done streaming for the night. Like what you see, hate what you see. I posted in a bunch of places too, so I'd also curious if you let me know where you guys came from, or did you just stumble on me through Twitch itself, or I posted in like the Pathfinder 2E, the Reddit Discord. I also posted on the Foundry one and a couple other places. I didn't post on Reddit. You came from stars? Is that blocking out a curse word? Ah. Yeah, you were my first. Zoteric, you were the first. You were the first viewer of the stream tonight. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sticking with me. Oh yeah? Okay, so people are browsing the Pathfinder streams on Twitch. I was curious if people did that, because I didn't see a whole lot of them out there. So I was curious if people actually do that. That's interesting though that you're coming in through that. That's cool. That's really good that people are doing that, because it didn't seem like a whole lot was out there. Um Oh, interesting. Okay, cool. Are you running your own game? Are you running 2E, or are you running 1E, or what are you running, and how many players are in yours? Apparently Bijo is running 2 games and playing in 2. Silent Ranger 68 is Bijo. He's one of our fans from our YouTube. That's why I say Bijo instead of his Twitch name. And also, I'm curious if you guys play online or if you use a VTT. I'm really in love with Foundry. I've just started using it a couple months ago. 4 players at the moment. Oh, Agents of Edgewatch. Yeah, I've read a couple of. I read like the first book of that. Seems nice. Seems good. You play online? Or you play at a table in the real world? Foundry, yeah. Again, I absolutely love it. I've only been using it for. I guess I used it for the first time we did a Halloween one shot. So I guess I've been using it for almost 3 months now. But yeah, it's been amazing. All the plugins, all the stuff, all of it's really just fantastic. Definitely, it's leaps and bounds beyond what I was doing back with MacTool. Oh yeah, you got players in Canada, Brazil, and California. Yeah, I'm in Maryland, so I'm on the East Coast, and I got a couple players, another couple players in Maryland, and we got California. We got one guy in Toronto, all over the place. So yeah, Canada, Brazil, and California. Okay, time zones aren't too bad. Yeah, the East Coast West Coast thing does get that sometimes, because again we play at 9 p.m., which is 6 over there. So sometimes my California friends can't make it because it's dinner. And like I said, 3 or 4 of us now have babies, so that's always a kink in the plan. But it's been going all right. All right, well, thanks for coming, guys. Again, so my plan is to do these sort of things every other Saturday. So I'm gonna be streaming every Saturday. we play every other. So like next week we'll play, and then the week after that I'm gonna do kind of session prep, world building stuff like this. And I also plan to do world. I was planning to do stuff on Tuesdays too. So like basically I do this now and I do this on every Tuesday. I'm not sure how much I can actually do. Like, so I like when I was going through this, I was surprised how fast I kind of went through what I was doing. So we'll see. Maybe I'll keep trying to do it on Tuesdays, this sort of thing too, and maybe I'll just start building the Odyssey world, and you guys can watch along with that and give me suggestions or tips. But yeah, that's kind of my plan. I'm gonna stream every Saturday and probably every Tuesday. So swing by if you're around. I'm definitely, especially I'm getting a lot of GMs coming. That's really interesting to me too. It's not just people interested in watching Pathfinder. If you've got if you've got tips or input, especially again, I'm a kind of a new Pathfinder 2 GM. I've been playing 3.5 and Pathfinder 1 for over a decade now, but this is our first time I've done a 2E campaign. So in terms of balancing things and figuring things out, I'm still learning a heck of a lot. So if you're watching me build stuff and you have suggestions or don't think I'm doing things right, let me know. And if I start building out the Odyssey and you've got opinions or if you got cool ideas for how you'd like to interact, I definitely want to get viewers involved, like I said before, giving boons and curses and, actually impacting the world, helping to figure out if the players get where they're trying to go or get blown off somewhere else. Stuff like that. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys later. Subscribe. I don't have the whole thing, the whole song and dance. Hit the doobly-doo, hit that bell, whatever. I'm not begging for your likes, but if you like me, you can like me. That'd be great. I'll be around. Thanks, guys.